I think that's the most difficult thing.
Make it parody on set.
The Christmas party, I'm sure, gets very killer.
Oh, it's such a fine line. It's such a fine line.
But the pull that is not easy.
No. And especially working with Conleth Hill, who plays Varys, the spider, the bald man in that scene.
He gets he gets into it. You know who else?
No, I mean, it's so much fun.
How's Mountain? How's
That man, we were having dinner. I got to eat dinner with him one night in Croatia, and he ordered 7 chickens. He ate 7 chickens. Like whole chickens, like roast chickens.
Oh, so they were cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rolling 20s. We are the show that when we start our cars, we yell in tune, activate interlocks.
Giant therms connected. Ember cells up.
Mega thrusters are go.
And if you get that joke, you can be our friend. I am Jeremy.
Jesse.
And V.
Remember, you can subscribe to this show and several others in the MSP library at missionstarpodcast.com. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes and on Stitcher, follow us on Twitter at the Rolling 20s. You can send us any fan mail, suggestions for the show, or hate mail at mspfreight@yahoo.com. The theme music you heard at the beginning of the show is by Machine Supremacy. You can find most of their discography for free download at machinesupremacy.com, as well as their latest couple of albums on amazon.com. The clip you heard at the very beginning of the show was from The Daily Show. Jon Stewart interviewed Peter Dinklage ahead of Game of Thrones Season 5. You can find their clips under The Daily Show's YouTube channel. I wish you guys had heard the begging I had to do that little joke at the beginning. And it was a bit of begging. But it felt worth it in the end. I liked that.
Ah, yeah.
I'm still hating myself.
It was fun, silly, and stupid.
How is everybody doing?
All
I'm
right.
a little disappointed. I got an email earlier this week about one of the resin figures I pre-ordered God knows when.
Yeah, okay.
Apparently
what happened?
It showed up, and before they get distributed, they realized that the bulk of the figures were damaged. And those that weren't damaged were not up to par for them to ship out. So they scrapped the entire shipment and start all over. It's going to take 6 to 8 months.
Really?
Yes.
What figures are these?
Some My Little Pony figure I, got my had an interest in when it came out.
Oh, okay. So, 6 to 8 months, a lot of people stop producing after that, so they're going to have to find...
It was supposed to be a one-off. They weren't supposed to make it again.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the site that's offering actually gave a few options. A complete refund, a credit voucher for the site, and... that was it.
I gotta say, I applaud your patience. I would have said, just give me my money. I'll take the extra space to put something else in there. I applaud your patience. How about you, V?
I'm just waking up.
Yeah, I kind of figured that.
I can't think of anything exciting I'm up to. I've been playing Pillars of Eternity a lot.
Don't know that.
That I want to buy. I
yeah.
want to buy it.
It's an RPG that's just come out in the past couple of weeks. It's it's an homage to the RPGs of the Baldur's Gate Planescape Torment era.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like an isometric party-based RPG.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's done by the people that did the Stick of Truth.
Oh, well, okay, that's a good pedigree then.
Well, the actual game was pretty decent. The show still.
Well, I'm not saying the Stick.
Yeah,
I'm not saying the Stick of Truth is a bad game. I'm being honest. That actually has a good pedigree behind it. That had pretty good ratings.
Yeah. I think Obsidian is involved with it too, but I can't remember.
Yeah, Obsidian is involved.
Okay. And they're the
What
ones
about
that
you,
did the
Steve?
original Baldur's Gate.
Yeah. What about you, Steve? I haven't heard from you since WonderCon.
Yeah. Well, other than the con over we just did.
Yeah, but that's not our show.
Yeah.
You made time to do someone else's show, not our show.
Yeah. I finally got my taxes
We're still
done.
in. Stop bitching.
Yeah, I finally got my taxes done, waiting to get my refund, and I thought I was going to have to work yesterday and then got called off, so I just had 2 days to do nothing, and it's been pretty nice.
I wish I had that. I actually had a lot of acrimony over the past weekend.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah, some of it was personal, some of it is quasi-professional. The quasi-professional we'll actually get to in the general comic news. The personal was a little sad, but it happened. There was somebody on Facebook whose friend was selling several of their older figures and statues, including a Sideshow Collectibles Angel statue, which I wanted.
Oh.
And I asked how much it was. This was about 3 weeks ago, and he told me it was $280, which is it's not just less than it is on eBay right now. That's under retail.
Wow.
So I said, okay, I'm interested. Do I drop a deposit? And the guy who owned it got in touch with me and said, no, don't have to do that. 3 weeks goes by, and I just don't have the money. Steve was at WonderCon. We had a couple roommates, but the room was still a little bit light, so I had to cover the overage there. And things had just not worked out my way. And when this person that put me in touch with the original said, are you ready to buy the statue? And I said, honestly, no. WonderCon didn't go the way I wanted to. No lie, I'm not sure what else to say. So he texts me back, whatever, dude. And so I just considered the whole thing dropped flat, so I didn't respond. 2 hours later, he sends another text, you said you were going to do something, and you made me look bad in front of my friend. And I said, hey. I texted back, hey, I was ready for a conversation about my situation currently. I was ready to have a conversation about how to buy the statue in the future. You decided you didn't want to do that. And so he sends me another text. I'm not going to believe anything you say ever again. So I sent another text, and this was the final one in the conversation. Really put a nail in it. I said, quote, to borrow your parlance, whatever, dude. I felt bad up until that first whatever, dude he sent me, and then my empathy just vanished.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude is really not the way to respond to somebody.
Yeah, that's begging for a fight.
Yeah, I don't know if he was trying to shame me into buying it or if he was actually upset, but either way, he definitely didn't get the response he wanted, which was none.
Yeah.
So, that was my weekend. The rest of it, I've been spending the last day and a half arguing with one individual over a story we'll get to soon. We don't have any Kickstarters this week, no crowdfunders to talk about, so we'll just go right into the video game news. And the video game news, there wasn't a terrible amount of it. Kotaku had an article via Luke Plunkett about a PC game that officially runs at 12K resolution.
12K?
Yeah, it's running at 11,520 by 2160 resolution. The game is called Project Cars. They run a GIF and a video where it's run on a 3-monitor setup, and it does look like crisp video, but unfortunately a video of a video is never a good indication as to how a game will run.
Especially on a GIF.
Yeah.
Yeah. The game itself demoed at E3 last year as part of an NVIDIA showcase. So it's interesting that things have gotten that far. I don't know any displays that are feasibly could run this outside of a multi-monitor setup. Anybody else? Because I don't think they sell a 12,000K monitor.
Yeah,
No.
No.
Oh, 12,000K, that's the wrong terminology. A 12,000 monitor. Now, this is one of those things where if you have a basement arcade, this is wonderful. If you don't have one of those, you're going to have to keep your kids from touching everything.
I'm just picturing, with friends and whatnot and their kids and how our big screen TV handled that. Yeah, if you know anyone with kids, you don't even have to have kids of your own. There's no way anyone's getting invited over.
Isn't that the truth? It was also announced via Nintendo this week that one of the more hated characters in Smash Brothers is getting a nerf.
Okay.
Diddy Kong, actually.
Really? Diddy Kong?
Yeah, some players, according to an article on Kotaku, considered Diddy Kong very overpowered thanks to a strong aerial game. And top players had flocked to Diddy Kong since Super Smash Bros. Came out, making spectating matches kind of grating, according to players.
Huh.
So what they did was and these are the changes they made to Diddy Kong. The up air was nerfed from 8% to 6%. The fair was nerfed from 12 to 10% down to 10 to 8%. The up throw was nerfed 10 to 8%. The D throw was the down throw was nerfed from 7% to 6%. The monkey flip was nerfed from 14% at the high end to 12% at the high end. Monkey flip was nerfed from 12 to 10%, and the banana throw was nerfed from 7% to 5%. Doesn't sound like a serious nerf.
Now, it sounds like he's a very
No,
fast
that definitely sounds like
character to
more
me.
of a balancing change, which is nice, but especially since they were complaining about his air game, to nerf him overall seems a little bit excessive. But
I'm guessing the original design, his air game was probably what was supposed to differentiate him from the other characters. But I'm not a Smash Brothers player, so I can't say that in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think that it's literal percentages they're talking about. I'm thinking about that's percentages done to the player. The higher you get to 100, then, So, honestly, nerfing it a couple of percentage points is still pretty big just in overall gameplay.
Yeah, there was a lot of tweeted response that really enjoyed this. Some of the people responded to the responses with haters gonna hate. I gotta tell you, that is one of the most overused and ridiculously stupid phrases I've heard.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
it's a good justifiers term. That's really all it is.
I know. Haters gonna hate. All that means is you have a justifiable argument, but I have no response. Therefore, you are a hater.
Yep.
So that, gosh.
Typical internet argument,
Yeah.
If you aren't a hater, you're a troll. If you aren't a troll, then you're just stupid and immature. And
Oh, wait till you find out the name I got called today.
there's no way to have an argument on the internet and win. Everybody loses. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It would be better if people ever went into the argument with the thought that their mind might be changed.
No,
But
that would make it
doesn't happen.
debate.
Don't go to
not
4chan
an
or
argument.
Reddit.
Yeah, that's how I approach it. Unfortunately, the internet doesn't know how to respond to that.
Yeah, the internet
Fix the
doesn't
internet.
debate; it just argues.
Let's see. We did find out this week that the Arkham Knight, the villain in the next Batman game, his origin is going to be revealed in the comic series upcoming.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, DC announced via IGN that on June 3rd they're going to debut a series of Batman Arkham Knight. They're going to publish a 6-issue series going into the origins of the central antagonist, the Arkham Knight. The new series is going to be called Batman Arkham Knight Genesis, and it's going to debut July 29th and be written by Peter J. Tomasi. July 29th, huh?
So it's a little after Comic-Con.
Yeah, why would you debut the comic book after the game in Comic-Con now that the game comes out June 23rd?
Maybe
I don't know, I
to
thought it
have
got
some
held up
spoilers.
Well, it went from June 3rd to June 23rd.
Oh, okay. So I thought it got moved into
Yeah, my reading of the story was a little bit quick because the story on Newsarama says that the game is coming out June 3rd and the comic book comes out July 29th. Well, we know now that the game doesn't come out June 3rd. Still, though, why would you have the origin of the character come out a month after the game?
I have to agree with Jesse. Spoilers.
There's a possibility of spoilers, but...
Okay. Yeah, alright. I guess that's the most logical recourse. Mark Hamill. Oh my god, Mark Hamill.
Uh-oh. What happened?
No, well, we all know he's played one of the most iconic Joker characters
Yeah.
in the history of DC media.
Multiple times.
Yeah. The reason why this made it into the video game news instead of the comic news or the DC media news is because this has to do with Mark Hamill's portrayal of the Joker in Arkham Asylum. You know, Sideshow is one of the greatest companies I've ever seen when it comes to making replications of things.
Uh-huh.
They are also the reason why I could potentially go broke and get divorced. They have made this. They've recreated Mark Hamill's Joker from the Arkham Asylum game.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
It's complete with a muted palette. It has an interesting-looking revolver in its hand. The swishing tails to the jacket are a nice touch, as well as the frilled cuffs to the shirt. And it also has an alternative or expanded version where for extra money you can get a different head on it, which does this.
Oh, boy.
It's nothing true,
Oh,
but it's that wide-mouthed Joker laughing
Yes.
grin.
Oh my god.
That moment just before he's about to terminate your ass. You know, like I said, I'm not a fan of Batman overall. I do like the games, and unfortunately the games were good enough that I have this voice itching in the back of my skull that says, "How much is on your credit card?"
I started getting credit card offers again.
Oh, really?
Apparently, my credit after losing the house my credit is finally coming back up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, you can go broke for the rest of us. Yeah, cool. There was a little bit of news about World of Warcraft.
What now?
There have been a couple patches upcoming. There was some kind of time-associated patch where you could go through previously done raids again.
Huh.
I don't have that story in front of me for some reason. I guess I missed it when I was trying to put everything together. But the story I do have via Kotaku is that in the next World of Warcraft patch, you can build ships.
Oh, yeah, I saw something about that.
It's going to come up in a new expansion that has to do with the Tanan jungle. It's currently unfinished 100 zone.
I haven't touched that game in over 2 years, I think, or 3.
Yeah.
Never
Since my max level was 70, or was it 80?
No, I didn't do 80. I know I stopped before MOP.
Yeah.
Well, here, according to the patch notes, these are the reveals. It's time to take the fight back to the Iron Horde in the Tanan jungle. Access to the zone is unlocked by constructing a shipyard available to characters with a level 3 garrison. To begin your journey, report to your garrison and accept the War Council quest. New daily quests are available in Tanan to acquire shipyard resources and more. Open world questing with rare creatures and hidden treasures are scattered throughout the zone. Build ships in your shipyard and dispatch them on new naval missions. Naval missions are still in early development. More information will be added as it becomes available. That sounds very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, the garrisons sound different. I have no idea what's going on with that. It's been so long.
I couldn't say. It has a new raid called the Hellfire Citadel, which is supposed to be a relatively big area with 13 bosses, including some familiar faces from WoW lore. Yeah, this sounds very involved.
Yeah.
13 bosses.
Well, I mean, they usually do, especially for content-wise. They do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jesse, you're asking about the 13 bosses?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to recall the last time they had that many bosses, but the thing is, the last one I remember with that many bosses will be Old War.
I don't have a frame of reference, unfortunately. My interest in WoW begins and ends right here. The last bit of video game news I have is it was revealed recently online, and I'm sure this came out at the Star Wars Celebration too this weekend, that Star Wars Battlefront has been announced.
Oh, yes.
Heard about that one.
And, of course, being the investigative jackass that I am, I have the trailer to the game.
Yep.
Please.
I enjoyed it.
Show us.
Yeah. Not being a Star Wars fan, I almost want to play this. Wow. Y'all are getting hostile. There it is.
Please.
Thank you. Like how it starts with a Star Destroyer hanging in the sky.
EA Sports. Entertainment.
EA.
Yeah, entertainment.
EA and DICE. Yeah.
Now, supposedly everything in this video is from the game engine itself, not any special cutscenes. And that makes it, frankly, rather impressive. It looks like a bunch of movie scenes strung together.
Yeah. Part of the things that they were
almost.
talking about in the interview is that DICE actually got invited to Skywalker Ranch and got to take a look at their library and were able to make digital scans of all of the original models and everything used in the movies.
Nice.
So you're essentially viewing the AT-AT model that they have digitally recreated and have it moving around. So that's why it's such a
Accurate.
That's cool.
yeah.
I guess I'll have the question to see in a minute in. They brought in an ad as support. When does the robot camel become an actual help under these circumstances? This seems like an awfully bad environment to bring that in.
Well,
You would think the tree foliage would interfere.
It does imply from the way they're surrounding this thing from the camera angles, it doesn't look like it would be able to get much further through this forest.
I don't know. It could probably just crush the trees out of its way. And now the big reveal. He was not available in either of the first two Battlefront games.
But the gigantic asthmatic is back! I've heard that this game is supposed to add some links between the end of Return of the Jedi and the beginning of the new trilogy, including the fact that it reveals that Boba Fett did survive the Sarlacc in the new continuity.
Yeah,
And
this
he
actual
like
planet
survive it
right at the
twice
end
in the old
is,
continuity?
Yeah, I thought he climbed out of it at the end of the movie.
No, he didn't. At the end of the old continuity revealed that he got swallowed by this thing 3 times somehow, even though it's just a pit in the sand. That's just bad luck. This is the first time in the new continuity that he officially did survive the Sarlacc. It's also revealed that part of your play through this will end close to or on the new desert planet that Star Wars: A Force Awakens begins on.
Yes.
So not Tatooine then.
Correct.
Basically, if you watch the actual new Star Wars trailer that they released, it starts off on that desert planet with the downed Star Destroyer in the background and so forth, and the battle...
Don't worry about that. We have that trailer too. We'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, it's revealed that battle resulting in that Star Destroyer being there is enacted in Battlefronts as a free DLC coming out, I believe, December 8th. But if you pre-order the game, you get to play it a week early, December 1st.
Yeah, my only thing is that it's nice that they're tying all this together. I'm still worried about the MacGuffin in this new movie being Luke Skywalker's hand and lightsaber.
I can't believe they're actually going with that.
You know, I mean, I've been proven wrong before.
Weird.
Yeah, some things I thought would be horrible didn't turn out to be horrible, but at the same time, that doesn't sound like a great place to start. We shall see, though. We shall see.
It doesn't sound
Again,
like a movie
I'm
plot.
hoping they're just trolling that.
From there, we're going to go into Marvel media news. We'll talk about the Marvel projects that don't end up on the comic book page. First off is a doozy. The report is that the new spin-off show that's being proposed for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be written by an Oscar winner.
Oh?
Who?
John Ridley was a writer-producer of the award-winning film 12 Years a Slave, and he's reportedly working with Marvel Studios on a new television series.
That's cool.
So I don't know if this is the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. spin-off in particular, or if he's working on a new project, but they've already signed him to start work on something. I couldn't even guess what he could be working on, really.
I'm not sure what they would spin off. If it would be like the new S.H.I.E.L.D. or...
I don't know, it seems like Coulson's building a base for superpowered people, so the Secret Avengers crew would be possible.
Yeah. Does anyone else think that Ward is going to end up with a power?
I hope not.
I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying the direction of the show without him, frankly.
I like the character.
Everybody has their own flavors. It's okay. But the thing is, though, Ridley is not exactly a stranger to comics. He actually wrote several titles for Wildstorm, including The American Way and a one-shot of The Authority.
Huh.
So he does have a
original
pedigree.
Authority.
The Wildstorm version of The Authority, I believe the pre-DC version.
Okay. Well, even the Wildstorm version had that weird restart.
Well, it was called a one-shot of The Authority, so he wasn't doing the regular version. He was doing a one-off story of some sort. It is said that writers for both the Guardians of the Galaxy and Inside Out are in talks to potentially write the story for Captain Marvel. Currently, the candidates are Nicole Perlman, who was a co-writer of Guardians of the Galaxy, and who is currently co-writing the Gamora comic book series, and Meg LaFauve, who's the co-writer of Pixar's Inside Out. They're both in negotiations, and the movie has a current release date of November 2nd, 2018. There is no director currently attached, so this is still early. And 2018 does give them quite a bit of time to hammer that out.
Yeah.
Speaking of Captain Marvel, supposedly the character was yanked from the Age of Ultron.
Really?
Huh.
Yeah, an interview with MTV News went on, and Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Movies, was asked about Carol Danvers and where she may end up in the Marvel Universe. And he admitted to them that her original first appearance was supposed to occur in the Age of Ultron. But he said, quote, "We didn't want to introduce her fully formed flying in a costume before you got to know who she was and how she came to be," unquote.
Okay, so
That
they're planning
makes
on
sense.
doing more of an origin story for her.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an argument about diversity in Marvel's comic book movies, the easy one right now is that they're very low on female heroes, especially the superpowered ones. So it would be right to give her a full origin story. Odds are that although Carol Danvers is one of the higher profile female heroes that Marvel has right now in comics, movie audiences wouldn't know her from Wonder Woman, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like know anything about her.
She definitely isn't Power Girl because she doesn't have the boob window.
No, she used to have the bikini cut.
Yeah.
That French bikini cut. Further on in Age of Ultron, they've decided to reveal who the mysterious lady in a cave was from their first trailer.
Oh.
If you remember, there was a dark-skinned lady that looked like she was bald head. And a lot of the guesses were that she was a member of the Dora Milaje, one of the bodyguards of the Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that the internet fucked that one up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Also, according to Kevin Feige, he explained that this was a hallucination. And she wound up on the cutting room floor. Quote, "That was just the imagery. That was just an interesting imagery as part of a dream sequence. It was part of when Thor was looking around at the oddity and the strangeness happening, and it was just an image marketing grabbed," unquote.
Huh.
Okay.
So the lady didn't turn out to be much more than one of Thor's hallucinations.
We're using the Thor from the Ultimate Universe now?
No, this same one from the Marvel Cinematic. But they further asked if They further asked Feige if the studios were just screwing with moviegoers by including the image, and he said, "Quote, sometimes not in that case. In that case, it was just an arresting image which seemed interesting, and when marketing presented it to us, we said, oh yeah, cool, this is great, amazing, great work. And then it started to go out, and I thought, people are going to read into all this stuff," unquote.
Yep.
Boy, did he nail that one.
What?
Yep.
Fanboys and fangirls reading into images on the internet? No, it never happened.
Because aliens.
Kittens.
Scarlett Johansson has been talking a little bit lately. Of course, she's the Black Widow in the Iron Man movies, and so far both of the Avengers films.
Mm-hmm.
And according to her, there may be a Black Widow film on the horizon.
That would be so nice.
I thought
She
that had
talked
already
to-
been established.
It hadn't been established yet. Believe it or not, there's no movie on the timeline that says Black Widow. She had a recent chat with Collider, and she said that she had some discussions with Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige about the Black Widow film and a potential film franchise, and said, quote, "I've spoken to Kevin about it. I mean, of course we've had that conversation before, and I think Kevin would like to see a standalone film. I think I can speak for him and say that's all, really. Right now, I think this character is used well in this part of the universe, but I think Kevin, we've talked about it, and we both share similar vision for what could be a standalone series," unquote. And as for what a similar vision would be, she expanded, quote, "I think that there's room for a standalone movie. The character has a really rich origin story, and I've been really fortunate to kind of place all these layers on top of one another and kind of build up this character to the point where I think I can now start to peel them away and reveal different sides of her and really focus on. I think I've been able to grow with the character. The character's been able to grow with me," unquote.
Well, she did film part of Avengers while she was pregnant.
Kudos. I like that one. But she is right, though. I've never thought of the Black Widow as an intensely deep character, but she has done a lot with it on the screen so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though she's not starred in anything.
Well, given what we know about the character, it probably doesn't go well on the comic page, but it might do well on the silver screen.
The thing is, though, the character's origin has already been on the silver screen. The whole Leviathan thing in Agent Carter. The Red Room, that's where the Black Widow's training began.
Yeah.
So her origin is technically out there. You just need to expand on what her involvement is. I'm sure a lot of people don't realize she was a ballerina.
Mm-hmm. Now, we saw a little bit of that in the first Avengers.
Saw a little bit of it, but it's not really talked about at all.
Yeah.
Even in modern comics, they don't really talk about the Black Widow's origins. It's just, look, it's stretchy. Mark Ruffalo also talked about the possibility of a standalone Hulk film, and he said that's not happening.
Really?
Yeah, and believe it or not, it's for an issue we all overlooked. He said to Collider, the same people who asked Scarlett Johansson about a solo film, he said, quote, "As far as a Hulk movie, a standalone Hulk movie, Marvel doesn't really have the rights to that yet. That's still Universal's property. So there's that issue. That's a big impediment to moving forward with that. Now, I don't think that's insurmountable, by the way, but I don't know where it's going from here for me," unquote.
That's true.
But the
He's right.
last Hulk film was kind of tied into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Especially
It
that
was-
after-credit cutscene.
It was sort of, but that also means that Marvel had to work with Universal to get the rights to do that. That means that was a partnership, and that may not have extended past that particular film.
Which would actually make sense, so...
Yeah.
Well, you think about it, they are working with a property that they don't have the rights to, Hulk. So what the hell is up? Well, Sony's actually caved in. What the hell, Fox? Get on board.
Well, what that means is right now Marvel should ask its lawyers, hey, Wolverine was an Avenger, right?
And so was a good portion of, not a good portion, but definitely some of the members of X-Men were Avengers.
Several notable X-Men have been Avengers. I guess the question is, do you want to deal with that kind of headache? Because Fox would come, lawyers are screaming. Speaking of Fox and lawyers... No, it's more fortunate than you think. They've announced a new cast member for X-Men Age of Apocalypse.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Olivia Munn has been cast as Psylocke.
Ooh.
Huh.
Who?
Interesting.
Olivia Munn, she was on Attack of the Show for G4 for several years, then she did a short stint on The Daily Show, then she moved on to HBO show The Newsroom. She's been doing a few movies here and there. Good-looking woman with a mixed-race background. Here's an image that came from IO9 with a side-to-side of the two. And I think Munn has the acting range to pull it off.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The question I have, though, is which version of Psylocke are we talking? Are we talking the British lady, or are we talking...
they're gonna go they're gonna go the ninja route.
Probably. I just have to ask the question. Does that
is hands down the most recognizable version of Psylocke.
Yeah.
I definitely think she could pull off the British, but I know they're not going to.
Yeah.
If you've seen her in The Newsroom, you know that she can pull off hottie very quickly. And I don't mean hottie as in, physically hot. I mean acting above other individuals. Right. So, I think she could do it. Speaking of Age of Apocalypse casting, Lucas Till has been re-signed to the X-Men series to appear for the third time as Havoc.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. He's going to reprise his role.
Okay.
I think he's been doing a good enough job.
I think he's been doing a good job as a character. I just think the character is underserved as Cyclops was in the original trilogy.
Yeah, I still liked him in the original trilogy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, James Marsh in the original trilogy did a good job, but the writing just kept... I think the writing had to do with the 12-year-old view I had of Cyclops. What's so special about the guy with the eyeglass?
Laser vision.
It sounds like an ad for a 70s album or something. James Gunn is opening a little bit about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He said that the important theme in the second film will be fathers, plural.
Okay.
According to the story on Newsarama, they say that that's not very surprising because, first of all, there's the mystery of Peter Quill's father that's supposed to be solved in the second film. But there's also the idea of Thanos' weird fatherly role to Gamora and Nebula.
Okay.
There's not much beyond that. A lot of it is repeating previous quotes we've already gone over about his plans. But fathers, plural, is a bit of a new wrinkle to add in there. Now, James Gunn did talk about another Marvel project in his reaction to it, and it happens to be our subject of today. When Gunn watched Daredevil, somebody asked him about his opinion on it. He said on Facebook, quote, "Well, I love it. The cast is great, Charlie Cox is just awesome, and Eldon Henson is about as amazing of a Foggy as I could have imagined. The fight sequences stand alongside Spartacus and Rome as some of the best TV fight sequences ever. So, the best TV fight sequences ever not performed in togas. And the scripts have been touching and on point and true to the character," unquote.
Wow.
Yeah, you can't ask for a better soundbite than that, can you?
That's a lot of promises.
Well, let me see. We do have an image that was released of Mike Coulter and Kristen Ritter on the set of AKA Jessica Jones as her character Jones and Luke Cage.
Uh-huh.
Interesting. I don't know if I agree with the choice of helmet, though. That thing doesn't look like it fits Coulter's skull.
I
sent it to you.
Big head.
Yeah, he does appear to... I don't know if that's the helmet sitting on top of it or if he actually does have that kind of a huge melon. I do like some of the online comments are asking, wait, where's the silver tiara and the disco shirt?
Or the pop-up collar.
He's not in disguise yet.
I hope they never go there. Cody Smith McPhee is also cast in Age of Apocalypse to be Nightcrawler for the movie. And Superhero Hype decided to ask him about comparisons to how he's playing the role to Alan Cummings' take in X-Men 2, X-Men United. He actually had an answer I like in this one. Quote, I don't try to avoid it, and I don't try to keep it in mind. I just let things come naturally. Because it is the Marvel Universe and X-Men, and there are a lot of people expecting a lot of things. I did a huge amount of research on anyone who's portrayed it, and even in the comics and cartoons and live action. I just followed Nightcrawler's story. I feel very honored and grateful to be expressing that now. I can't wait, unquote.
Nice. He was
you can't
one of my more favorite characters of the X-Men.
Well, he's right. You can't behold yourself to Alan Cummings' portrayal because you don't want to just be stuck doing a bad impersonation of someone else's impersonation.
Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to find what's special in there for himself. And a story that I found on International Business Times that we will all like, there is a chance that Chris Evans as Captain America may not end with the Infinity War.
Oh, yeah?
Ooh, really? So
Yeah, remember when we talked about him prior about this, Chris Evans himself told Variety they wanted to retire from acting when his Marvel contract was up.
Right.
He wanted to do directing. Now, the thing is, though, when we counted it out, I believe we counted that technically Age of Ultron would be his sixth, right? That would be his six-movie contract fulfilled. He appeared in 6 movies.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because of his appearance in
Thor: The Dark World.
Right.
But he has recently been signed to do the Civil War movie, Captain America 3, which would be the 6th, I believe. However, there are people reporting that he's in talks right now to sign up for the Infinity War, the 2 movies.
Damn.
Got in his blood.
Yeah. Now Chris Evans himself told Gay Times magazine, quote, I think it's almost like high school. You're kind of always looking ahead and when you'll graduate, but then when graduation day arrives, you kind of don't want to leave.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if once we wrap Infinity Wars, I'm going to try and focus on directing a bit more, but by no means am I done acting. And if they'd have me back, yeah, I'd probably consider it, unquote.
Nice.
Sounds like he's having more fun than he intended with this crew.
Yeah. Well, it definitely sounds like he's having a lot more fun than portraying Johnny Storm.
Oh, that was low. But the other
Fox is coughing.
The other thing is, going back over some of his previous quotes, you got to consider that working for Marvel right now, one, it's guaranteed money because if he re-ups, it's guaranteed multi-movie deal.
Yeah.
He's going to be making millions. And then, as he said himself, he doesn't make many decisions on set. A lot of other people tell him how to stand in certain situations, how to inflect. So that means, as an actor, he's technically doing minimal work. This is probably some of the easiest shit he's done.
Yeah. I don't know. He has to keep himself in pretty good shape for it, though.
Well, I'm not saying that to be cruel or saying, look, he's half-assing it. I'm saying that because everyone else is making his decisions. That means he doesn't have to take any risk. Just play the role as they say, and he gets boatloads of cash and fame.
Cha-ching.
No, he still got to perform on camera. Just he doesn't have to think about it.
Yeah, and what's the worst he has to do? Abuse a solo flex. So, there you go.
To the happiness of all of us.
I don't know about happiness. I think he's an adequate Captain America. However, I hear something in V's voice that says he's something a little more than Captain America.
I mean, I do actually prefer, like, Thor and Iron Man, but yeah, he's nice to look at.
There's my God of Thunder. There's a rich billionaire. Oh, look, there's a guy that looks cute in Stars and Stripes. You know?
Yeah.
Last up in Marvel Media News.
He just doesn't have enough of a bad boy image.
Yeah, I was just about to say he's too lawful good.
Okay, so if you want to send anything to V, be aware she likes dirt. All right. Last up in Marvel Media News, we do have the new trailer that has been released for the Fantastic Four film. This is technically the second trailer released. Yeah, I'll send it to you guys because I know you're curious. Because I don't want to say anything till after it's viewed. How about that?
Sure.
I think curious is being generous, but okay.
Just acerbic today. There it is.
Load faster.
The following preview has been approved for mature audiences.
Appropriate.
So not us.
Years and millions of dollars.
No.
He gave us nothing. What's different now?
Reed Richards. He knows answers to questions.
Oh, of course. What's different now? Reed Richards.
I love that they just tied that in because it's totally like,
This is our
what's
chance
different now with
on our
these
planet
movies?
and maybe even sing.
I hadn't thought of it that way. I like
You
that.
want to be famous?
I just want my work to make a difference.
John, Reed, this guy doesn't take orders.
Oh, your work made a difference, all right. Ruined a lot of lives.
Orders will.
Don't let any of these lab coats give you any crap, all right? Well, if I do, I know who to call. The muscle.
Ben Grimm is a skinny little dude in this film.
Really?
No.
What you've created here is incredible.
They actually put him in a junkyard?
I don't... Yeah, I guess so. I don't know his family origins. I just know he was former military.
Air Force.
Yeah.
They just cracked interdimensional travel.
Well, they are getting the whole,
They're using the ultimate narrative.
yeah. No, I'm saying the personalities are very whimsical.
That's okay.
However, the next group of scenes involving their losses in the other dimension, it's not very whimsical.
4 have survived.
Oh look, 4 have survived. Good for them.
Unique physical conditions.
Just want to fix my friends.
Unique physical conditions, is that what you call the rock cocoon?
You should use these powers to help people.
You open
Actually,
the
the
door,
thing
you
kind
don't know
of,
how
the
to
way you think's face looks, kind of reminds me of those guys
close. You
from
don't know anything
Saturn.
about what's coming.
Can the,
What?
Those rock guys from Saturn that Thor fought. We saw them in the Dark World.
Oh, okay. That looked like an ugly ass Doom.
so
Yeah,
is the thing stuck in rock form? or-
Probably.
permanently.
Take everything
Okay.
you have.
Yes.
It's usually been permanent.
Well, in other words, it's not an on-off situation for, I'd say, 95% of the character's history. It's usually he's either stuck as that or he can't turn it on.
Only till he's in.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Gotcha.
That's a big drop.
Might be a little less.
Okay, now that the trailer is over, quick question.
Uh-huh.
If you drop something supposedly that dense and heavy and it falls, I don't know, look like about 1.5 miles, would that actually cause an explosion like that?
No, not a fiery explosion, but definitely concussive. If it,
I expected concussive, but the explosion with fireball attached to it threw me a bit.
If he
yeah,
landed on
that's
something that was
movie
explosive.
magic right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, he was too far away from that truck to cause that.
Yeah, that's the second time I've seen that trailer, and I'm a little more optimistic about it, but not optimistic enough to say I want to spend money on this film.
If that's the first
I'll
thing
watch
that
it.
we like, I'll watch it. It looks interesting, at least.
Yeah.
I
Teach
don't
their
know
own.
if I'll watch it in theaters or not.
Yeah, it's
No,
not
I
graphic.
definitely won't be going to the theaters.
Yeah, if I saw it, I would be at home.
If somebody shoved it in front of my face, I would be like, okay.
Is that why you reacted that way at WonderCon?
In which way?
Never mind.
So I guess I'm the brave one that's gonna go watch it in the theaters then. Okay.
Oh, wow, okay, we have a sacrificial lamb. Thank you!
Wait, when is it coming out? It's,
Actually, I think...
August.
15. Okay.
Oh, okay, so not 7/15, July 15th, you said?
No, August.
Oh, August 15th. I was about to say, they put that up right against Ant-Man? That seems like suicide. We'll move into DC media news, which is the DC projects that land in video games and TV and movies. Okay, let's get through the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And that is the fact that after a leak, Warner Brothers decided it was a good idea to just go ahead and release the full trailer for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
I'm kind of scared.
I know, it's a 2-minute trailer, and I got it right here. There you go.
All right. Let's see this.
Warner Brothers logo. DC Comics logo. We're starting off as a barn burner.
I'm muting myself because I'm eating.
That the most powerful man in the world should be a figure of controversy.
We, as a population on this planet, have been looking
for... All these voices criticizing Superman.
Talking about a being whose very existence...
They are not telling us the truth.
It sounds like Neil deGrasse Tyson there.
...priority in the universe.
Human beings have a horrible track record of following people of great power.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Chaos. Maybe he's just a guy trying to do the right thing.
We know better now, don't we?
I'm not sure the dark imagery really works for Superman.
They come from the sky. The world has been so caught up with what he can do.
Oh, there's your Jesus moment.
That's how it starts.
They misspelled Zod.
The fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness.
Who do you think is talking to Batman?
Good man.
Ra's al Ghul.
Cruel.
I hope that's not Alfred. And why does it look like the Batsuit has like a boxer's nose on it?
It could be worse, but you get bat nipples.
You got me there. Now, is that Batman with a sniper rifle on top of a building?
Tell me, do you believe?
That is a sniper rifle. Love the armor.
You will.
I don't know, the question of do you bleed? I mean, I've seen a lot of people joking, don't ask that to Wonder Woman because she'll tell you yes.
Boo.
It's not my joke.
Still, you said it.
That, and I'm allowed to boo
Yeah,
other people's jokes.
It's just watching that trailer, I was hoping it would add some excitement for the release, and I don't have anything new to go with it. I don't have any extra feeling to go see this movie.
It's dark and brooding, like I expect, an adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns. Or The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I just don't have strong feelings about this movie.
Right there with you.
Now, to be honest, that first voice that came out, it sounded like the Joker for a second.
And I don't think he's cast in that movie. I know that Jesse Eisenberg is playing a Lex Luthor, but
I was looking at that first voice come on, I was like, is that the Joker? I know it's not Mark Hamill, it could be Troy Baker or something, I don't know.
Well, if it was, that would tremendously help, but I don't believe it was. They have hired a former Marvel director for Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Yeah, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Patty Jenkins has been hired to film this movie. The original director, Michelle MacLaren, who previously worked on Game of Thrones, left over creative differences, as she's put it. Patty Jenkins, however, is known for directing Monster, which earned an Oscar for Charlize Theron, and she was in line to direct Thor: The Dark World, but left that project before filming began. So she has now been picked to helm Wonder Woman.
Huh.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen Monster. I've heard decent things about it. I just don't know anything about her directing style.
I haven't seen it either.
Well, news that will make a lot of fans superbly happy is that Constantine may actually be getting re-upped.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm not kidding about that.
Watch that.
Constantine's series creator, Daniel Cerrone, he's the executive producer and co-creator of the show. He took to Twitter recently and said on April 6th, quote, NBC invited us to pitch second season ideas late April. Not dead, stay hopeful, hashtag save Constantine, unquote. That news apparently excited William Shatner.
Really?
Really?
Why is he so
He
excited?
retweeted on the 14th, quote, according to what I read, Constantine is not canceled. Hellblazers remain steady, unquote.
Well, he's an obvious fan.
Yeah, so they're talking about second season ideas. It sounds like the show may actually go forward.
Nice.
I don't know if I'd watch any more of it. It didn't grab me like I hoped. Last bit of DC media news I have is that George Reeves' original Superman show is returning to network primetime in a format. According to Deadline, the 1950s series... Yeah, according to Deadline, 1950 series including I Love Lucy, L.A. at Last, and Lucy and Superman will air on May 17th at 8 p.m.
So they're relaunching Nick at Night.
What?
That's brother. That's cold. But they are colorizing all these episodes as well, so they won't be in black and white. I'm not sure why you do that, other than the fact that there's a generation out there that may not understand black and white was a thing.
They better not watch the third episode of Gunbuster.
Yeah, even when I was growing up in like the 80s, man, I woke up my dad one day because I was sure I broke the TV, and I dragged him out of bed early on a Saturday and said it's not working, and it turns out it was a black and white TV show, so genius I am. You know, everybody has their off days.
Yeah.
Alright, we'll move into general media news. Nerdy projects that don't fall within Marvel and DC. Katie Sackhoff from Battlestar Galactica's remake is actually getting back into sci-fi. For Reunion Pictures, she is making a new show with continuing producer Reunion Pictures for a project called Rain. It's described as an evolutionary parable that gives us a look into our possible future as a species viewed through the eyes of a soldier named Rain. It's supposed to explore the long-term effects of global warming, burning of fossil fuels, and the scientific manipulation of nature's balance, and that creates rot of the world and contributing to its decline.
So pure fantasy.
Well, could be an interesting narrative.
Yeah.
You know, there's been worse ideas that hit sci-fi.
I can't
think after all. Stargate Atlantis?
People like that.
I barely watched the original.
I watched half a season before I bailed out on that show.
I know people that liked it a lot, so.
I haven't. There must be diehard Stargate fans then.
My sister. Well, how about this? Howard Stark is going to be Jesse Custer.
I have no context. What?
Dominic Cooper, who played Howard Stark in Captain America: The First Avenger and on Peggy Carter. He has just been cast, according to Seth Rogen's series creator of Preacher, as Jesse Custer, the title character.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yep. So Howard Stark gets to be Preacher. That's exactly who he's been shooting to try and get Dominic Cooper on this series for a while.
So he gets to be drunk again, drunk character.
Yeah, except this time he gets to play around with cell phones instead of just, dames.
Because there's an issue with playing around with dames.
Well, it's not an issue, it's more of a subscription. Ryan Gosling is also in talks to join a sci-fi movie sequel. There are loose talks for him to join Harrison Ford on Blade Runner 2 in an unspecified role.
Huh.
I don't know how I feel about that. Gosling is an attractive individual, but he's not exactly a ranged actor.
Yeah.
He tends to have expression throughout
I can't
movies.
think of anything he's done.
He's done a few things, but not a whole lot I could quote
I'll
to
look
you.
it up.
The only one I'm aware of, and I don't even remember the name of it, he did a movie with, Stephen Carell, where he played like a playboy teaching him how to re-enter the dating scene.
Oh, he was the guy from The Notebook, which I haven't seen.
No, it wasn't the 4-year-old virgin. Stephen Carell was divorced in the movie.
I have no idea.
I didn't catch the title, but I watched it and it was actually entertaining, but it was more because of Carell and his co-stars than it was because of Gosling. Oh, well.
I have literally not seen him in anything he's been in.
Really?
Yes.
I probably haven't either.
Wow.
It looks like he's done a lot
still
of
trying to
chick
figure out
flicks
who we're talking about.
lately.
Well,
He's in
not
The
enough
Notebook,
spandex.
apparently.
Yes. I've never watched it.
I haven't either, but it's one of those. It's a movie that a lot of girls are like, ooh, The Notebook. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I have another teaser for you.
Uh-huh.
We have from the debut from the Star Wars Celebration, the new teaser to Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Ah.
This one actually shows considerably more than what we've seen thus far. There it is.
And spoilers.
It's not spoilers. It's just a teaser. It'd be spoilers if they said, okay, now Luke got Leia down on the bed. That's a spoiler.
In more ways than one.
Look! Sand! I hate sand.
It gets all over the place.
Yeah. You see a crashed X-Wing and a crashed Star Destroyer. That's a story.
Oh.
That's not a mountain back there. Well, I guess now it is.
Definitely full of caves.
Hmm? Look at that
I
mask.
do like the ruin. This makes me want to watch this now.
I want to know who fished the mask out of the fire.
What fire? It was a freaking space station that exploded.
No, don't you remember Vader had a funeral pyre in Endor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right, because he dragged the body back. That's right. Wow,
Yep.
I can't believe I forgot.
R2! Or an R2 unit.
X-Wings!
Was that Wedge?
No. I can't remember his name, but it wasn't Wedge Antilles.
Oh wow, there's actually some detail on the X-Wings now, instead of just being all gray.
Oh, yeah, and there's the new star.
What about the Falcon flying through the tail of that Star Destroyer?
No, I meant the robot BB-8 or whatever it is.
Oh, and there's the Falcon.
Yeah.
And now I kind of want to see this.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. After watching that new teaser, that actually makes the movie seem somewhat compelling to me.
Especially the part with the crashed Star Destroyer.
Yeah, which that is going to be the first official DLC for Battlefront.
Not only that, coming out of the Star Wars celebration happening in Anaheim this weekend, it's been revealed that there's new names for the factions in this era of the films.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah, the Rebellion is no longer called the Rebellion, it's being called the Resistance, and what's left of the Empire is called the First Order.
Okay. I like those changes.
This came off several signs describing props and ships being used in Star Wars The Force Awakens. So these are the actual details. I mean, you saw the improvement of the Stormtrooper design in that teaser. I'm curious about the Chrome Stormtrooper, though. Was he dangerous, or did he just decide to be fabulous? I have to ask.
I assume dangerous at this point.
IO9 had its nose all through the Star Wars celebration. I sent you guys a URL. They took pictures while they were there. They have some details on new snowtroopers. They have a mock-up of the new X-Wing fighters. Some costume concept art as well as actual costumes.
Nice.
Yeah, some mock-ups of the new Stormtroopers. Looks like new Desert Nomad and Junkyard Thugs, which sounds like the worst tag team ever. There's actually a lot of detailed pictures as to what to expect in this new film. There's even some art and a mock-up of the armor of the Flame Trooper.
This might actually be good.
Huh.
It's going to be different. The villain of this movie, the Sith Lord in this film, is called Kylo Ren.
Okay.
He's the apparent Inquisitor, or I don't know. He's the Sith, the guy with the red lightsaber with the crossguard. I don't know what else to say beyond that about that particular character.
Are they still making memes about that thing?
I know there's still a big debate as to whether or not that's necessary. I think that's one of those useless debates of, like, let the guys play a little bit, see what comes out of this.
That's actually kind of interesting to me, is that I'm noticing by the concept art for the characters that it seems to be the Stormtrooper guy that's going to be the Jedi, and the girl is going to be more of the smuggler-esque blaster type person. I was actually expecting to be the other way around.
Well, I kind of... The Stormtrooper is supposed to... I forget the actor and character names. Thank you. Finn. The Black Stormtrooper, he's supposed to be the more reticent one. Some early talks appear to have uncovered rumors that he will be there when the First Order or the Empire is burning a village, and he just can't stand it. That's his breaking point. So he didn't end up on that desert planet by accident. He's a defector.
Right. But it clearly shows in his concept art that he has a lightsaber.
Well, yeah, remember he and the other character are supposed to be the ones that found it and are returning it to Luke Skywalker.
Can't believe they're going with that.
I really...
Well, that's what we understand.
That's not the case. I really hope that is not the case.
We'll see. In that teaser, there were several images of that lightsaber handle being being handed to somebody, so I don't know. I do have news that's going to make you all groan comparatively.
Okay.
Matthew Vaughn, the director of X-Men First Class, has been signed to helm the remake of Flash Gordon.
Really?
That's right, they're doing a modern remake of Flash Gordon, probably the most period hero there's ever been.
Oh, I don't know. There's been others, but he's the one that I know the best, probably.
Yeah, I mean, well, we know the 70s version. We don't know the 50s version that I'm sure was the 40s or 50s version from the cheap era of sci-fi. But I'm sure everybody knows the songs that Queen have sung to that Flash Gordon remake. I know some people are screaming, it's not a remake unless you have Freddie Mercury!
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe they will.
I can't. Last bit of general media news I have was that Mark Hamill was suspicious of J.J. Abrams when he started working on Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Really?
Yeah, Hamill was at the Star Wars celebration, and he said he knew he had to say yes when George Lucas told him about plans to move forward with a new trilogy. He said, quote, "It's not like a choice. It's like I was drafted." Could you imagine if for some reason I said, I don't think I want to do it? I would have all of you surrounding my house like villagers, angry villagers with lightsabers instead of torches, unquote.
That is incredibly
Unfortunately,
true.
That's true. That is so true.
Unfortunately, that is correct. He went on to say, quote, "I was a little suspicious because," in regards to J.J. Abrams, he said, quote, "I was a little suspicious because he was a Star Trek guy. It just seems odd," unquote.
That's actually kind of funny.
The thing is, Hamill is always good in interviews. Have you ever seen his interview that he did for Maxim a few years ago?
No.
This told me what kind of man and sense of humor he had. He got in that Jedi pose, the one where you're holding the lightsaber above your head, you know, wearing the robes and all that. But instead, he was holding a clear see-through umbrella over his head that was open, and he was dressed as a Japanese schoolgirl.
That's hilarious.
Saw that and said, okay, you've won my heart.
I remember, I forget where I saw this, but he was asked to do a small skit, asked to do a skit between the Joker and Luke Skywalker.
Oh, God. That must be one of those things where you're constantly talking to yourself, just wondering, is this the moment where I go crazy? I have no Marvel comic news this week. It looks like they're holding their cards pretty close to the vest since the Secret Wars come out in about a month and a half here. But I do have one piece of DC comic news. And it's almost unfortunate because it goes back to something Jesse said about half an hour ago.
Oh?
We may have a spoiler on the identity of the new Batman in that rabbit-eared armor.
He's the Arkham Knight?
No, it's not been confirmed. This is still a relative rumor right now. But it comes from a leaked copy of Divergence #1, which is going to come out on Free Comic Book Day on May 2nd. And it details that the man inside the bat armor working for the police is former Commissioner Jim Gordon.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah. Allegedly, according to the story on IO9, one of the stories including Divergence is a clean-shaven Jim Gordon reluctantly accepting Gotham City PD's offer to don the new heavily armored batsuit and become a police-sanctioned Batman. Unfortunately, as far as rumors go, that makes a lot of sense considering the design we saw with the police lights.
Yep.
I'm just like... Okay, I understand Jim Gordon, you know, logical choice, everybody knows him and everything, but he doesn't have the training.
I don't know. The recent story, as I understand it from reading some synopses, was that before Convergence started, he lost his job as commissioner somehow. So it appears this is his way of getting back in.
I mean, from what I remember, he was a detective, homicide and stuff like that. He wasn't like he was part of SWAT or anything.
No, he was a ranger.
Oh, okay. Well...
Yeah, he had a military background prior to joining the police.
He was an Army Ranger.
All right. In that case, I have less to bitch about then.
It's viable, and frankly, this may be the most interesting replacement Batman since Dick Grayson, really.
I'm confused.
That's an opinion on my part.
Why is Batman needing to be replaced?
We don't know. That could have to do with something post their big event going on right now, Convergence.
Okay.
But even if Batman is still around, the police looking for a police-sanctioned Batman, I could see that as viable. They'd be looking for something to clean up the streets and not depend on the loony who can't testify in courts on anything that happened.
Yeah. Wonder how many people got off because of that.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why the asylum is so busy, because they can't technically put him in jail based on Batman's testimony, so declare him insane, lock him up. It's unfortunate, but...
Makes sense.
Legally viable. I do have more than a bit of general comic book news this week. And unfortunately, I gotta start with a sad one. One of the co-creators of Wolverine passed away this week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Heard about
his name was Herbert or Herb Trimpe. He passed away on Monday, April 13th, and this passing was confirmed in multiple sources, including family members. Trimpe was known for work on a lot of different books. He worked on The Incredible Hulk and The Defenders, but what he's most famous for was Incredible Hulk 180, which is the issue that debuted the character of the Wolverine. He does have a credit as the co-creator of Wolverine. He's also co-created several other characters for different comic books, but he's also co-created Captain Britain, Doc Samson, Jim Wilson, The Shroud, The Phantom Eagle, and the Hulkbusters.
Damn.
That's
Marvel editor. Yeah, Marvel editor-in-chief Axel Alonso said in a statement, quote, "To me, no artist is as synonymous with the Incredible Hulk as Herb Trimpe, who gave the Jade Giant a sense of pathos and scale that set the bar for every artist that followed him. Like a Hulk punch, Trimpe's art truly exploded off the page. Comics lost a giant," unquote. And unfortunately, Wolverine is going to be the thing that kind of defines him, because the list of characters he did create, I know 2/3 of them. But unfortunately, that a lot of people are not going to remember that Trimpe ever worked on those characters.
Yeah.
So, that's really sad. We lost, from all accounts that I get, he was a good guy on top of being a very talented individual. But 75, he had a good long life to go with it. So, hopefully, if there's an afterlife, he gets to relax a bit. Now, moving on to something a little more upbeat, we are all getting ready for Comic-Con in a couple months. Holy shit, what was that? A bear took over Jesse's mic. What happened?
Oh, that was me groaning.
Why are you groaning, man? I'm excited. I get to hang out at one of the biggest comic conventions in the world, and I get to see you guys. I'm fucking excited. Which sounds both very hopeful, but sadly pathetic now that I've said that. But they started announcing more of the convention exclusives coming out during Comic-Con.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Believe it or not, Hallmark is coming out with a few exclusives, which probably have to do with Christmas ornaments. The first one is going to appeal to retro enthusiasts of a chrome-plated 66 Batmobile.
Pass.
They're also coming out with an alien xenomorph with an egg as an ornament.
Okay.
I can't imagine using that as an ornament for Christmas, but whatever.
I could, but that was before I had 3 kids who would poke at it and say, "Dad, what's that?"
Let me show you a movie.
Little girl, let me tell you a story. Little aliens that grab your face and then burst your sternum. Dad, I'm done. No, wait, there's a movie to watch, too.
3 of them, in fact. 4. 5.
And then there's my wife with a frying pan. Also, Hallmark announced that they're making U-3PO and R5-D4, 2 lesser-known droids from Star Wars.
As toys?
As Christmas tree ornaments.
Cool.
We're still on Hallmark.
Okay.
And in the Itty Bitties line, which are kind of like super deformed versions, you can also get Boba Fett and Han Solo and Carbonite. That would be easier to explain to my kids on the Christmas tree. Watch this movie, kids. Now, if you don't behave, I'm going to stick you in Carbonite.
Nice.
And that's when my daughter says, "Yeah, you're so fat you breathe like the guy in black." And she would, too.
Yes, she would.
Those weren't the only exclusives that were announced. G.I. Joe convention exclusives have come up. At the Hasbro Toy Shop booth, which is going to be fucking insane during the weekend. For $100, you can pick up the Cobra Scythe Jet and the G.I. Joe Chimera, which are basically Cobra Hiss tanks and a G.I. Joe Sky Striker that have changed sides.
Huh.
For that $100, you also get 4 figures in this set. Grunt, Ralph Steeler Pulaski, an AVAC, and an Alley Viper.
We're going with like the old school stuff, or they're actually doing remolds of it? Actually new molds?
They have done remolds of the original, but they have like this wild new paint style. Hang on, I'm trying to find a high-res image so I can send it to you. Actually, I found it. Take a look at this. It's kind of cool.
All right.
The only G.I. Joe to retire.
Oh wow, that his thing,
an alternate dimension. Wow.
Yeah. The repaint of the Sky Striker is actually very visually appealing.
The his tank almost looks like that thing Sergeant Slaughter had when they first introduced him.
No, that didn't have a turret. It only had missiles on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a repainted Hiss and Sky Striker that are now called the Cobra Scythe and the G.I. Joe Chimera. It's not bad, actually.
And Sergeant Slaughter's treads were the other way around, and were on both
they
sides.
are outside.
Yeah.
Somebody showing off deep knowledge.
We're at the Wayback Machine here.
I still remember that shit.
Okay, well, how about this? That wasn't the only exclusive announced to be on sale during Comic-Con. You can also get for $60 the Cobra Basilisk and the G.I. Joe Foe Striker. Want to see what those are remodels of?
Sure.
You sound like you're hesitant or fearful for some reason. It's not like you have to buy them just by showing up.
Oh wow, the Snowcat
the Snowcat and the
oh, what the hell is that called?
I think it was called an Oz Striker.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's a Dune Runner.
A what?
It's well, those are the exclusive. It's a Dune buggy with a Gatling gun on top. That's all you need to know. Believe it or not, the Desert Strike pack you're looking at, you can get that at Toys R Us, available August 2015, as well as another set that is not going to Comic-Con. G.I. Joe Silent Strike, which is another version of the Sky Striker and the Cobra Hiss tanks, except now it is... Actually, it doesn't say what they're going to call the vehicles. They kept the same size, but they've completely changed the color schemes. I'll send it to you guys because I know you've got some minor curiosity. You can also get some G.I. Joe team packs at $20, which include versions of Cobra Commander, Duke, Firefly, Zartan, and several other notable characters.
Damn it.
I like the plane.
Are you getting back into G.I. Joe now?
It's like, dude, you got the nostalgia going there. Why do you... Oh.
That's why he's fearful. He's afraid he might buy it.
I have no idea where I would even put it. It would just be like...
Yeah, fine. Fine, I throw down the gauntlet.
No, I am not picking it up.
See if you can get in the Hasbro booth.
I am not picking it up.
Oh, I want to see if you can get in the Hasbro booth, dude. Hey, if I can make it and I don't even wait in lines, I'm sure you could. Also, as far as Comic-Con news go, The Walking Dead Escape is coming back. You guys remember that, where I huffed my heavy ass up 5 floors of fucking...
I remember you talking about that.
And we laughed all the way through.
Yeah, great. Good for you. But that's not the only thing they're doing. During that weekend, they're also bringing Walker Stalker FanFest representatives with them. So it appears it's going to be a mini event going on outside Comic-Con. Prices for Walker Stalker Fest range from $30 for a Friday or Saturday pass to $55 for 2-day admission, or all the way up to $800 for Platinum VIP pass that includes 4 photo ops during the weekend with guests, 4 autographs, a tour guide, and being escorted to the front of each guest line.
Wow.
$800 is expensive, but it sounds like you're getting a goddamn lot for your money. I will contact them after the first of the month. I'll see what I can do about getting media for them again this year, because we talked about it last year when I did it, but it was more or less me kind of ranting about how stupid I was. Well, I'd like to see if we could possibly find a way to get, like, V made up as a zombie. I think that'd be cool.
As a zombie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
And she could really bite her hands off.
Yeah, for the Walking Dead Escape, you can get tickets either as a runner trying to run the obstacle course, or you can take a shift as a zombie during the course.
And they do a really impressive job with those.
That's your intake of air? I heard her gasp.
I was thinking about a music video I've seen with zombies.
Thriller?
No.
You owe me a Coke. Okay, remember I said that there were 2 instances where I got into arguments this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay, this unfortunately is the second one. Calgary Comic Expo was happening this weekend, same weekend as the Star Wars Celebration. And Calgary Comic Expo is known as one of the larger comic book conventions in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
They spelled a booth on the 17th, which was this past Friday. The booth in question belonged to the Honey Badger Brigade. Okay? The Honey Badger Brigade, they have their own podcasts and internet radio shows. They're women that identify themselves as pro-Gamergate. They also call themselves men's rights activists.
Oh, joy.
Wow, didn't expect that kind of response.
Yeah.
They were removed, according to a story from the Honey Badger's leader, and she actually writes a webcomic, Xenospora. She was hoping to sell some of it during the show. And she expressed a lot of disbelief, didn't think that they were going to get removed from the show. The thing was, the removal wasn't the only thing that happened. The company running Calgary Comic Expo is called Fan Expo. They run several events, including Fan Expo Canada.
Don't tell me they
The ban extends...
Oh,
they did.
Lord.
Now, there's a lot of rumors flying around. There was a lot of acrimony saying that Calgary Comic Expo had no right to remove a women's group, and several other things, called them discriminators. I've done as much digging as possible, and it does appear that Calgary Comic-Con probably removed them, or Calgary Comic Expo, I should say, probably removed them due to what they did during a Women in Comics panel. Now, follow me here, because it gets a little convoluted. Okay? Now, during the panel, the Honey Badgers themselves recorded audio. It's kind of trippy, and it's not very good quality, but they uploaded the entire audio, over an hour's worth of audio, to YouTube, and I listened to the whole thing. Around 16 minutes in, the person recording it, identified as Allison, who's the leader of the Honey Badgers and the writer of Xenospora, started challenging some of the issues, like openly. She said she wanted to respond to certain comments. Okay, and she started talking back and forth with some of the panelists. She did that twice more to comments that weren't directed at her. And she did so along with one of the other Honey Badgers, a male member named Sage. Now, this is theorized to be the reason why they were removed from the convention. And the Honey Badgers themselves said in a video that they felt they had the right to debate people in regards to the topics of women in comics and what they call an attitude of damseling and victimization. Unfortunately for them, though, a panel is not necessarily a debate forum.
My question is, did they remove them immediately, and did they give them any sort of warning?
I didn't have... That's the thing, is that a warning was technically coming, but not from Calgary Comic Expo. What happened in a video that the Honey Badgers posted on April 16th, the night after that particular panel, or during the same night as a panel, but obviously well after it, they posted from a house they were using in the basement that Sage admitted that they had talked to the panelists after the panel, and the panelists had mentioned feeling threatened by their presence, which in and of itself, it's an insecurity, but it's not really the issue at hand. In the same video, Sage goes on to say, and I took notes here, at 48 minutes and 3 seconds into the particular video, Sage said that the panelists spoke with him and relayed that they felt threatened. At 48 minutes and 10 seconds, Sage said there would be more of their group at the other feminist panels, which accounted at 4 more during the weekend.
So they essentially made a threat in a way.
Kind of a veiled one. Allison said at 48 minutes and 20 seconds that they would be reasonably polite and have questions for all panelists they would not be able to answer. At 48 minutes and 41 seconds, Sage says, quote, says that they will, in regards to the panels, quote, take over your fucking world, go fuck yourself, unquote.
Oh, wow.
So,
what's the response?
Yeah, he got very...
Yeah, potentially. He relayed that he was going to do this and others of their members were going to do this.
He responded verbally abusively.
Yeah.
Not particularly abusively. This is him talking to a camera on the Honey Badger's video feed on YouTube. But this is what he says they're going to do regarding the other panels regarding feminism during the weekend. They're going to take over your fucking world during the rest of the convention on women's panels. At 15 minutes and 40 seconds, Sage says he admitted he felt like being hostile over 4 false allegations from his past and will use that to be hostile towards a panelist regardless of the panelist's lack of involvement with the allegations. What? I'm serious. I sat down and watched 3/4 of this hour-and-a-half video. Let me see, and another member of the Honey Badgers who was recording this video, Karen, said that she, at 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 25 seconds, said she would be hostile to the panelists/feminists. You know, unfortunately, now, they were removed the following day on Friday, and the reason that Allison, the leader of this group, the Honey Badgers, gave in a 10-minute video was that they were told that they were being removed because of harassment issues. And unfortunately, based on their own video, that's a viable reason to remove them, according to Calgary Comic Expo. You know, Sage and Allison and this other member, Karen, all said that basically they were going to be openly hostile to people who didn't share their worldview regarding feminism.
And also the fact that they were going to disturb someone else's forum to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sage also said at an hour into the video that, quote, no matter where these people go, the Honey Badgers will be there, unquote, implying that they're going to follow them to other conventions, too.
Now
it's probably where the... Yeah, which is probably where the ban across Fan Expo's conventions came from. Now, early on in the video, at 13 minutes and 36 seconds, another member of theirs, Anna, said that their booth, the Honey Badgers booth, was right across from the staff info booth, and they didn't have any problems at that time. At 13 minutes and 50 seconds, their member Karen says that their group is controversial, and Calgary Expo hasn't asked them to leave yet. So there's already this implication that they're very likely to get removed before they were aware of the removal the next day. And I think they felt that their removal had to do with their stance on Gamersgate instead of what they did during this particular panel. The panel incident is enough to get a lot of people removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, getting them removed from a panel, yes. To get a full ban, no. But their follow-up video, definitely, yeah, that wasn't smart.
Yeah. And I went through the extra work. I mean, I listened to the hour-plus audio of the panel. I listened to the over an hour of this hour and near 40 minutes video that they posted that night. I listened to the 10-minute video afterwards. And I went to the Calgary Comic Expo's website to find out what their policies were regarding removal of exhibitors, because a lot of people said it was unfair that they were removed and they weren't given a refund. It says very clearly in one paragraph of the exhibitor package that they do have a policy in place that says any exhibitors that are removed will not receive a refund.
Which I would think would be incentive for good behavior.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's designed to be, but a lot of people seem incensed. But then again, you know, this is the internet. A lot of people tend to jump to judgment on things when they don't have a full amount of information.
Yeah.
We've all seen this.
True. And I think a lot of people take it from the standpoint of, well, I paid good money to do this. They don't realize that, you know, buying a ticket does not entitle them to, you know, behave badly or poorly or to, you know, act in a certain way. You know, they feel it, they view, you know, I paid money, I get to do this, you know, no one can tell me differently, and that's unfortunately not the situation. You know, sometimes conventions can be very heavy-handed and do things I think are a little too much, but it's still within their rights, so nobody can really do anything. But in this particular instance, I can't even say that they are, you know, being too heavy-handed with this because, you know, of how they were conducting themselves.
Entitled.
There's
people feel entitled to
yes, exactly.
do whatever they want to do.
There's unfortunately a little bit more to this as I kept digging. First of all, it appears that I went to the Calgary Comic Expo website and looked up the Honey Badgers as an exhibitor on the list. When I clicked on the name, it actually doesn't lead to the Honey Badgers website. It leads to the Xenospora website, which indicates that's the information that the Honey Badgers gave Calgary Comic Expo as to the purpose of their being there, to promote this comic book. When they got there, obviously they set up the Gamersgate panel, and to be honest, if they were there over a day with that panel, with that banner up, I don't think you can call that the reason for their removal. especially since they said in the video they were across from the staff and information desk. So that would have been right there up front for the staff to see and possibly take care of. Also, it's just a matter of the combination of factors here. The potential lying in an application by not giving their website, their activities at the panel, and then the video. When you add all of it up, it creates a possible dangerous scenario, if not for everybody, but for at least the people they're obviously disagreeing with.
Right. I mean, it's an emotionally charged situation. People aren't going to act logically. And a convention center, never mind, any other possible consequences, they're going to act to ensure public safety, to avoid their own, liability as far as like any incident that happens.
Yeah, and don't think I'm lacking empathy in this, because their leader, Allison, like I said, she runs a webcomic, Xenospora. The fact that she is banned from Fan Expo's events means that she cannot bring her webcomic or the printed version to sell at any of these. And as an independent, that's a hell of a blow. But at the same time, if you're going to change information on your application as to your purpose, that does give Calgary Comic Expo legal standing according to their terms of service, which you would have had to sign to be an exhibitor, to remove you just for lying on the application. So it's a very bad turn of events. I'm not going to sit here and talk about Gamersgate necessarily, because the issues, as the facts seem to be pointing out, don't really lead to Gamersgate so much as a few individuals who have harbored obvious ill intent.
It's unfortunate. It's not necessarily a permanent ban. She can probably petition and do some other things, but it's obviously going to be with restrictions if she is allowed back. But
if she's allowed back, she'd probably just be allowed as an individual exhibitor and not with her crew, the Honey Badgers. The Honey Badgers on their show are very much what they call men's rights advocates, and they are rebroadcast through a website called A Voice for Men. I looked them up as well, and they a part of the mission statement on avoiceformen.com says that feminists are pretty much compared and likened to skinheads, Klansmen, and Nazis.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was said on an article on Comics Alliance that Voice for Men was on the Southern Poverty Law Group as a hate group, which I looked up on their website. They are actually listed there as a hate group. So they're not saying that A Voice for Men owns the Honey Badgers, but they definitely seem to be some kind of loose affiliate. So this whole thing just balled together between the video, who they're keeping company with, their statements on the video, their actions during the panel. Add all that up, and it's, Calgary Comic Expo is going to act in what they believe is best for the majority of the people attending. I got into an argument with one person online who said that they could sue for libel and freedom of speech violations, and it's like, why? Because you interrupted their freedom of speech to introduce your freedom of speech. You can't sue for that. Can't sue for libel because so far I haven't seen anybody heavily editorialized except for people who are calling Calgary Comic Expo fascists. And then because he ran out of arguments, he called me an SJW. I had to look that up.
What the hell is that?
I don't.
An SJW is a social justice warrior.
Yes.
Oh.
I
Exactly.
remember we ended up watching that video about what would happen in a couple of years if SJWs took over the world.
Yeah, I had to look that up. And the SJW is pretty much a troll with a political agenda who resorts to insults when the argument runs out.
You hate those.
Me? I don't have a positive influence or a positive identification with him, yeah, but at the same time, somebody else horned in on the same argument and said, but he hasn't called you any names, he's just displayed facts. You're the one that called him a social justice warrior and accused him of not thinking. So...
Who are you?
Yeah.
At least so, explain to him.
Yeah, so, like I said, it created a long argument, which was probably unnecessary. I tried to frame it as a discussion and a debate, but basically when his points ran out and mine kept going, he started resulting to saying, I don't think for myself, and you're a social justice warrior, not worth talking to, and all this shite. And then he got shamed into returning to the conversation by a third party. Which is really bizarre.
You're in there trying to do a logical conversation. It's the internet, remember?
I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I think it is. to
it's
have
possible.
a
I've seen it
debate
done.
on the internet. It's just not going to happen.
The thing is, I don't have an opinion on Gamersgate either way. I wouldn't have even looked up the story, except this person made a big deal about it on a mutual friend's Facebook and the Anime Expo fans page. So I just decided to look it up and find out what's going on. And then I heard 3 women's group was removed from Calgary Comic Expo. Wow, that sounds horrible. Then I started digging in this women's group, and they kind of dug their own hole.
I have a question. What the hell is Gamersgate?
Oh, that's the issue where a female reporter was accused of using sexual charms or advances to promote a video game that she... Or no?
No. This is the thing, is that Gamersgate has kind of... No, Gamersgate has kind of lost its identity. Gamersgate originally was about a female game developer who was apparently sleeping with a male reporter who was reporting on their game at the time of their relationship. Depending on who you ask, the timeline may or may not match up with that. The reporter in question apparently, according to him, started sleeping with a woman after the reviews or some such. I don't know. Since then, Gamersgate has kind of morphized into this feminist versus anti-feminist argument that doesn't even have to do with the original story anymore.
It's basically all about airing perceived grievances
one gigantic
and slights.
soapbox, then. Okay.
Yeah.
It is. You have people that believe that women are constantly victims in media versus people who believe that women are not the victims, but they're taking away from men who are creating men as the victims in media, and they're kind of clashing in the middle with the rest of us going, dude, I just wanted to read Miss Marvel.
I just wanted to play this video game. I really don't care who made it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to take up so much time in that, but as I explained, it's a very detailed and back and forth thing, and I did a lot of work and research trying to figure out what was going on.
Well, it sounds unfortunate that they shot themselves in their foot, but, that...
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to happier news because we still have some general comic news. Archie is becoming the king of the unlikely crossovers. Archie has met Batman. Archie has met the Punisher. Archie has met the goddamn Predator. Well, take it one step further because it's been announced. It's Archie versus Sharknado.
What?
No.
It's not. It is a 48-page single-issue special coming out on Archie Comics. Archie meets Sharknado. It's being written by written by Anthony Ferrante with longtime Archie artist Dan Parent working on the book. I can't think of a few comics I would much rather jam in my ear than actually read.
We need some killing for that fire. Nothing against Archie, I just can't believe Sharknado's a thing.
I've tried watching the first movie. I never got into it. Never bothered to look into the second film. I am really confused by this crossover. It's like, Archie's been around for a while. Doesn't he have a rich enough history to tell his own stories without digging into this other shit?
I have no idea what their thoughts on the matter is. I assume that this is not part of, actual canon for the Archie narrative.
I will say I don't know, and I don't want to know. I don't have anything beyond that. I find it frightening, frankly. It has been announced that Image Comics has lost 2 staff members. Yes. Why would I want to watch Archie and Jughead be eaten by sharks? This doesn't sound interesting to me.
Fair.
There have been some shakeups at Image Comics. They've lost 2 staff members in a recent restructuring. Image Comics Director of Business Development, Ron Richards, announced that he was leaving the company. He joined Image Comics back in 2013 with the newly created position focusing on the sales and marketing strategies for the publishing line. The second departure is Jennifer de Guzman. She'd been with the company for 3 years as a former editor-in-chief of SLG Publishing, and she was supposed to be director of PR and marketing for Image Comics. It sounds like they lost a couple white collars. Well, no bad wishes for them. It's just it's not exactly an artist or writer, not exactly people central to the usual fan motifs.
Right. I mean, I would be interested to know why they decided to leave. I mean, if they're just pursuing a better career opportunity somewhere else, more power to them. But
yeah, I don't know. This is something that Steve is going to be interested in. I'm going to be interested in. Jesse might be interested in. V's going to tune out.
Okay.
I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just I don't know how much you would care about this because we've only recently started talking about some of their stuff. For the last year, a man named Joseph Hedges has been working slowly and diligently to track down all the players involved in the now-defunct Wildstorm comics.
Okay.
He's looking to create an oral history of Wildstorm.
Really?
Yeah, by talking to the people directly involved in the comic books. It has been a long project for him. Hedges works at a university in the financial aid department, and he spent the last year talking with people involved in Wildstorm's history. His goal was to create a comprehensive oral history of the La Jolla-based comics company from its beginnings as part of Image into its acquisition and merger with DC Comics. That's an ambitious freaking project. If he does it, I'd be interested in reading it, man. Those are some of my favorite comics during my high school years. I especially like to know what he found out about Gen 13 and the Authority. I always thought Stormwatch was underrated, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked it, but yeah, I guess because it had so many members, it was a little harder to settle on a favorite.
You know what? I started out as an X-Men fan. Following Stormwatch was easy by comparison. It's also been announced that one of the most challenged books in U.S. libraries last year was a comic book.
Sandman?
Yeah. Nope. No, V's heard of this title by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples called Saga.
Saga?
Yes. It was called out for mostly being anti-family, as they called it.
I've heard of this, but I can't remember where.
Now, Saga was part of 10 books that received the most complaints from the public in public libraries. It involved Persepolis.
Persepolis?
Bone was in there.
Persepolis, yes, which was a graphic memoir of a man. And Raina Tegemeyer's Drama, a comic about a teenage relationship set in the backdrop of a school play. And Saga, by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples, is a space opera about alien parents from opposite sides of warring factions attempting to raise their newborn child together while on the run from authorities.
I like it.
How is that? Okay, but based on that description, how would people call that book anti-family? You got two people from opposite sides of the tracks, different genealogies, who had a baby and agreed to try to raise it, despite the wishes of their families.
I guess there's
because
more
they're
in
not
the
following
actual
the wishes
literature.
of their families. I don't know.
It's an interesting argument. Now I'm curious to read Saga.
That's usually the way that it works. People try to ban something, and it's like, I want to check this out. What are they so upset about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a longtime Marvel editor, Mike Martz, is leaving Marvel. He's going to join a new publishing company of comics called Aftershock. There's not much known about whatever Aftershock is going to be, but Martz is a 22-year veteran of the comic industry. He's worked as the executive editor in charge of the X-Men and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice.
Okay. He's got a nice pedigree, but again, an editor is not exactly an artist or writer. Then again, working as long as he did on those two, the Guardians of the Galaxy and X-Men, and trying to keep those continuities straight, I could say he could probably decode encrypted transmissions by himself, frankly. I do have an interesting list in our general comic news of webcomics you should read if you like particular TV shows.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of fits in the motif. Webcomics are still comics. According to the story by Lauren Davis, if you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you should try a webcomic called Gunner Creek Court by Tom Siddell.
Okay.
Never heard of it.
Okay. It's about a massive industrial school hiding... It's about a massive industrial boarding school hiding ghosts, minotaurs, and oddball robots across the river from a mystical forest packed with fairies and gods.
Okay.
At the heart of it all is a young lady named Antimony Carver, or Annie, a girl with a strong connection to the mystical, and her best friend Katerina Kat Donlin, a born scientist.
Yeah.
I've heard worse.
Sounds entertaining.
If you like Farscape as a TV show, it's recommended you try Space Trawler by Christopher Baldwin. It says, in the hopes of liberating a slave race called the Ebbs, a group of extraterrestrial activists abduct 6 humans to serve as government representatives of Earth.
Narnia in space?
That's an apt description, basically. If you like Twin Peaks, you should try a series called Brood Hollow by Chris Staub.
Oh, that's good.
Never.
I've read half of that, actually. I've read Blue Hollow.
Okay. If you liked Once Upon a Time, you should try a series called Namesake by Isabel Melancon and Megan Lavie-Heaton. I don't know anything about that.
I haven't seen anything with that either.
In the universe of Namesake, the fantasy worlds from fiction are real, but they can only be visited by humans with certain names. Only certain girls named Dorothy travel to Oz. Only girls named Alice journey through Wonderland, and so on. But when a young woman named Emma mysteriously turns up in Oz, she and her loved ones are thrown into a world of fantasy protagonists, the writers who jot down their stories in a conspiracy that threatens the whole system.
That actually sounds really interesting.
Yeah, that's a very interesting idea. If you like the web series Powers, you should try the series Strong Female Protagonist by Brennan Lee Mulligan and Molly Osterich.
I've heard of that one before.
We've discussed this one shortly. A Strong Female Protagonist had a Kickstarter a while ago.
I thought it sounded familiar.
Yeah. According to the description on the story by IO9, if you're less interested in powers for the sex and violence than for the exploration of superheroes in the real world, dive into Strong Female Protagonist. Allison Green used to be a superhero, but she didn't retire because of some loss of superpowers. She just didn't feel like wearing a mask and a cape was the best way to save the world anymore. Now that she's in college, though, things aren't exactly easy for the former mega girl. Her celebrity status makes it hard for her to stand up to even the smallest injustice, and she still doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. And the only person who really understands her is a former supervillain.
Oh god, please tell me it's not a dude.
It doesn't say who the supervillain is. I like the description, though. If you like the TV show Game of Thrones, it's recommended you try Unsounded by Ashley Cope. Set Frumigan has been set on a quest by her father, the King of Thieves, and has been given a grumpy undead sorcerer, Dwayne Aldelier, as her unwilling escort. They're a mismatched pair, and their journey gets even more complicated when they come across a group of child slavers who are using their quarry for some sort of dark ritual. If you're looking for a fantasy tale with black humor, characters you can invest in, and more fight than monsters, this is one webcomic to sink your eyeballs into.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hear black humor and I just picture Blazing Saddles.
Where are the white women at? I'm actually starting to like some of these recommendations, though. This is getting me more curious about the world of webcomics. If you like Adventure Time, they recommend Forming by Jesse Moynihan. Yeah, okay. If you like Attack on Titan, they recommend Stand Still, Stay Silent by Mina Sundberg. This is not one I expected. They actually have a recommendation for people who like the Sailor Moon TV series.
Okay.
If you like that, they recommend Agents of the Realm by Mildred Lewis.
Yeah, I've only heard of like 2 of these on this entire list.
Well, there's a lot of webcomics out there.
That's true.
Yeah, it's really proliferating as a story, and there's a lot of people that show up in Artist Alley just to sell webcomics as print. Anybody a fan of Lost Girl and Grimm? If you like that, they recommend Sorcery 101 by Kel McDonald. I actually like the description here. The supernatural gets soapy in Kel McDonald's long-running Sorcery 101. You've got a former prince who renounced his title and is bonded to a devious vampire. You've got his best friend, a former artist who went colorblind after becoming a werewolf. You've got demon mobsters, self-loathing vampires, demon hunters who tend bar at the local supernatural watering hole, unsuccessful necromancers, and impulsive teenagers who are just discovering the supernatural world hiding amidst the human one. That sounds like just that quirky kind of thing that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
If you like Firefly, they recommend Dicebox by Jen Manley Lee. It's a story about a pair of migrant workers who hop from habitable world to habitable world in search of temporary employment.
Okay.
I've heard this concept before.
Sliders?
No, not Sliders.
Oh, okay.
An actual comic.
Okay. If you like Tales of the Crypt, they recommend False Positive by Mike Walton. If you're a fan of the TV show Lost, the recommendation is The Abaddon by Corin Shadme. If you like Death Note, they recommend Demon by Jason Shiga. And that's the end of the list. I may have to check some of these out. I'm just about a good third of these, I'd say.
I'd be interested in that. Actually, I can't remember the name of it now. The one of the superhero in college.
Oh, Strong Female Protagonist. Well, the last story I have, General Comic News also has our convention news, and this is big convention news. Big Wow Comic Fest in San Jose is coming to an end this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were bought out by Steve Wozniak and Stan Lee.
Oh.
Interesting.
That's right. The creator of some of Marvel's most popular characters is teaming up with the former co-creator of Apple to make Silicon Valley Comic-Con in 2016.
Sounds fun.
They plan for it to open on March 19th to 20th, 2016 at the San Jose McHenry Convention Center, where Fanime is going down. That's a... God, I was talking a little bit about this with Anthony, and just the fact that Stan Lee signed his name to this may take it from a moderately sized comic festival to a pretty big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Lee has a well, look what happened to Kamikaze. He came out, it was like a good 8,000 to 10,000 people first year. Next year, Stan Lee signed a contract with him, 30,000 people showed up. Just adding Stan Lee will bring names. And I don't mean just fans looking to go. I mean, that means that a lot of creators will go, what, Stan's going there? Oh, I gotta be there. So, you know, this will turn into a big deal, I'm fairly certain, as long as, you know, man stays alive. He's 92, for frick's sake. We'll move into anime and Japan news. We talk about the information that comes from across the Pacific Ocean because we're anime fans to differing degrees, and sometimes it's just fun to talk about the differences. Naruto as a series, even though the series has ended, even though the manga, I believe, has come to an end, still marches forward with the announcement of Boruto, the movie.
What?
I hope that's a bad translation.
It is not! The latest Naruto movie is Naruto's son, called Boruto, the movie, which sounds like a joke in and of itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Boruto, I don't do anything fast, and I don't do ninja stuff. I'm a professional accountant.
For an anime, I believe.
And... okay, here's the part you're not going to like. I have a trailer.
Okay.
Oh, fun.
It's all in Japanese because, of course, you know, this stuff hasn't landed across the aisle. I sent it. It's only 40 seconds. Starts out with, I guess, still painted entrance. And it does get animated at the 15-second mark. So apparently, because Naruto grew up and is no longer as interesting as a teenage protagonist, they made a new one! You think that means he's gonna have to fight Sasuke's kid?
I don't know, it looks like Sasuke's kid's a chick.
I don't know, there was a male in there that looked like a brooding young goth, so that could be Sasuke's kid.
I have no idea what's going on.
I don't expect you to have an idea what's going on, knowing you.
Well,
I don't know, I was talking about the girl with the glasses.
She's either related to... It's either Sakura or Tintin. The only ones come to mind.
Oh, that's right. The girl with the glasses could be Shikamaru's child.
Whoa,
yeah, but they wouldn't throw Shikamaru's child in there. They'd be throwing... Because they have Naruto in his Hokage.
Naruto and Hinata.
Get up. And they've got Sasuke with the whole rival thing coming up after it. And then right after that, they have a girl with glasses and Naruto's son. I wonder who the girl with glasses is.
I don't know. Amiyumi?
No, I'm pretty sure that's Sasuke's daughter.
I don't know. She just seems awfully bright and happy for somebody from the Uchiha family. I have another trailer, and it's not one we're going to be excited about, but again, it's a thing. The first full trailer for the Attack on Titan film has come out.
Do we have to?
Have to is a strong word. I might hurt you. Again, you know, we got to respect other people's fandoms even if we don't agree with it. Otherwise, you know, what are we? We're the honey badgers. There it is.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it looks like the same kind of trailer as the Boruto film.
Well, I will say one thing. The girl with the glasses doesn't have her Sharingan yet, so may not be Sasuke's daughter.
I'm told that this is a bit of a departure from the original manga, because in the manga it's a European setting, and Mikasa is the last Asian known in their society. This film is cast entirely with Japanese individuals, it appears.
Well, go figure. It's a live action done by people in Japan.
I'm just parroting what I've read. I'm not a fan of the series. The Titan looks somewhat impressive as a CG, but it looks very different compared to the anime and manga.
Well, I think we already saw the...
Well, the Mega Titan looks a bit more anatomically correct. The difficulty in live-action adaptations of a lot of animes, though, is unless you really go insane on the contrast, the color palette is always going to be much darker than their anime counterparts.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just a reality. You know, a lot of anime fans kind of deride live-action adaptations because they don't look a lot like the animes, even though that's physically fucking impossible.
Purists.
Well, I have to say, I resonate more with purists than anything else, but at the same time, if it's something more difficult to do, then I can understand, but, like, I don't know. The biggest one that I had an issue with, purist standpoint speaking, was the Aragon movie, where they didn't even make the Arya's hair color the same as in the books. And I'm just like, how hard is it to throw a wig on somebody?
You know what? I don't know. The only statement I've got about that is I find it odd that I find myself resonating more with that trailer for the Attack on Titan film than for the Batman v Superman trailer.
Right?
You know, I don't have strong feelings for the Attack on Titan film, but if I had to pick the two based on the trailer, I'd go watch Attack on Titan. And as a comics fan, I find that very bizarre. But, hey, that's just my taste. Sometimes when it comes to Japanese news, we also talk about food, because the food choices between our two cultures are very different. There's a fast food chain in Japan called Latteria. Steve, have you ever eaten there? Okay, they're known to have some unusual burgers. And they've released a promotional image of their newest idea. Take a look at this. It's a very odd-looking piece.
Okay.
Potato salad? Egg salad?
What you are looking at is a shrimpless shrimp burger.
Okay.
I want my money back.
That is literally a bun.
Use shrimp flavoring to give it the flavor, or?
No, it's a shrimpless shrimp burger. It is a bun, lettuce, and tartar sauce. There you go.
I don't like tartar sauce to begin with.
Absolutely disgusting. And I've eaten a lot of crap over here.
That sounds like a bad joke. You know, you like our shrimp patty burgers, you know, with a fried patty of shrimp in them? Yeah, then try the shrimpless version. What's that got? None of it. What?
And I don't know, you're charging like $2 for this?
That's exactly right. They're charging 210 yen or $1.75 for the shrimpless burger. And the worst part is, some people have tweeted the burgers they've received. They look even less appetizing. Here's an example. Here's an example. And somebody was nice enough to tweet a side-by-side comparison of what they received versus the ad, and this does not look appetizing. I mean, if you're going to have this, why not just pay 99 cents and get a fucking roll?
I don't know.
Sounds like a bad joke.
I don't even know why you would purchase it, to be honest.
It's kind of like the fast food equivalent of trolling, frankly. Now, we have talked about the Akiba Batman.
Right.
Yeah.
The man in Akiba who dresses in a full Christopher Nolan Batman suit and a weird three-wheeled motorcycle and goes, I don't know about patrolling, but it's definitely riding the streets of Akiba. Okay? He may find himself forced off the road pretty soon, because in Fukuoka Prefecture, Japan, this was spotted.
Oh boy. What do we got?
Oh, nice. Wow.
That's right. Somebody has dressed up in a full costume of Kamen Rider, complete with a replica motorcycle, and has begun riding the streets for some reason.
Fucking awesome. Not to mention the fact that I've actually been to Fukuoka Prefecture. It's a really nice place.
So, what? Who is... I don't...
Kamen Rider is kind of like an offshoot, a more motorcycle-driven version of like a Power Ranger, for lack of a better term.
Precedes the Power Rangers, though.
Yeah, it came before it. It's not as stylized, but it was kind of one of the first like wholly Japanese TV superheroes.
It's insect-based and wears power armor and so forth.
I'm sending you another URL because according to the story of Kotaku, the guy got the replica bike pretty damn close.
Wow.
He did a good job.
That's impressive.
Now, what would you think if you were riding around the streets of Japan thinking, God, it's great to be a tourist here, look out the left of your car and say, the fuck is that?
I wouldn't say what the fuck is that. I'd be like, fuck yeah!
I'll be honest, compared to the bike they have in the show, this thing's like, the one that guy made is well constructed.
Well, I mean, honestly, it doesn't have all the wear and tear that they put into the show and whatnot. It doesn't look like they have all the decals and everything on it, but...
Yeah, well, further on the story, it turns out that this Kamen Rider is a local artist named Shinjiro Kumagaya. He makes sculptures out of empty cans.
So that's made out of, or part of it's made out of empty cans, or?
Potentially, I guess. Like I said, he's a performance artist. It doesn't detail what he made the suit out of, but as far as independent pieces go, that's pretty good work. He definitely put a lot of thought into it.
This is why cosplay comes from Japan, kids.
From there, we'll go into nerd interest news. We'll talk about certain news items that aren't necessarily comic or entertainment related, but sometimes it's just nerds. We like techie things that come up. How would you like to turn your smartphone into a particle detector?
Yes.
For what reason?
Let me see. A team led by University of California professor David Whiteson and his colleague Michael Mulhern have created Crayfist, the cosmic rays found in smartphones app. They want to recruit citizens to download an app to their smartphones into their CMOS chip to diffuse distributed monitoring system that records cosmic rays. The idea is to use local cell phones via this app, or I should say globally cell phones, to record light cosmic ray bombardment and study what it's like when these things actually hit Earth.
Nice.
Okay.
It's a nice passive way to observe without having to set up a whole bunch of installations. It's a decent idea. I sent an email to them asking to sign up. I haven't gotten a response, though. I'm sorry, let me go back to that story for just a minute because it actually details how to sign up for this. You can download the app if you go to Crayfis, CRAYFIS.io. This is for beta testing this particular app. Netflix has announced that they're going to come up with a new audio system so that visually impaired people can watch Daredevil.
Oh.
That's interesting.
Yeah, according to Tracy Wright, who's Netflix's director of content operations, quote, "At Netflix, we work hard to continually improve the experience for our members when viewing movies and shows on our service, including providing accessibility across devices. Now we're expanding our accessibility options by adding audio description on select titles, beginning today with our new critically acclaimed series, Marvel's Daredevil." Unquote.
Seems fitting, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of the motif. Look, the blind superhero on his TV show. Now you can listen along. I suppose action description isn't much more than like audiobooks, but at the same time, I guess it really is a decent argument that just because you're blind doesn't mean you should be ostracized from TV.
Just as long as it isn't quite as basic as the hearing impaired setting where it's, oh man. I use those for subtitles sometimes if I have a purely Japanese show or something, but it doesn't compare.
Yeah, the translation definitely suffers. Joss Whedon is getting sued.
By who?
Joss Whedon is getting sued by an author over the movie Cabin in the Woods.
Who has the balls to do that?
Well, the author is named Peter Gallagher, and he claims that the movie Cabin in the Woods is a direct ripoff of his 2006 novel, The Little White Trip, A Night in the Pines. The Hollywood Reporter managed to grab a copy of Gallagher's complaint for copyright infringement. He filed against Lionsgate Entertainment, Mutant Enemy, Cabin in the Woods co-writer Joss Whedon, and co-writer Drew Goddard. 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 Dre Gallagher's complaint lists 24 side-by-side similarities, including some of the names. In The Little White Trip, the female characters are called Jules and Dora, and they visit a cabin called Brinkley House. In The Cabin in the Woods, the female characters are named Julie and Dana, and they visit a cabin called the Buckner House. In both books, 5 protagonists received a dire warning before arriving at the cabin, rummage through the cabin's storage area, drink, flirt, and are subsequently terrorized by murderous forces. To be fair, the description of both the book and the movie sound like a lot of movies going back to the 1980s.
Yeah.
Now, the name comparisons may be something, because those were relatively close. But I don't know. The story on IO9 continues that the book and the film contain a twist. In The Little White Trip, it turns out that the kids are being manipulated and filmed for a reality show. In A Cabin in the Woods, they're also being manipulated and filmed, but as part of a secret ritual to appease horrific cosmic forces. Yep. That might be enough of a difference to get over the copyright suit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, the suit would not have been filed had whatever lawyers were representing this guy felt that they had a shot at it.
Yeah, it's a question of what's going on here, because Cabin in the Woods, according to Joss Whedon, borrowed a lot of typical horror tropes just to kind of poke fun at itself. You got to wonder, if this book was written in 2006, if they happen to use the same horror tropes, does that mean that this guy Gallagher was ripped off, or is he just that bad of a writer?
They had the same idea and came up with something quite similar.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Think alike?
Well, sometimes lab accidents create interesting inventions in U.S. history. Penicillin, aerogel. Add into that the new discovery of Ferroc. Ferroc is the kind of thing that could change the world, but unfortunately money may impede that. This is according to an article in Gizmodo. I mean, Ferroc is according to an article in Gizmodo. The rest of it is my own synopsis. What happened was a PhD from a University of Arizona was attempting to find a new way to mix. I'm sorry. Fuck.
Try again.
God, I'm getting parroted that from multiple sources now. Researchers are interested in finding ways to trap or sequester CO2. You know, a lot of that comes out from the creation of cement, which is a $250 billion global annual industry. A researcher from a project from the University of Arizona in the early 2000s was experimenting with ways to trap CO2 via iron. Okay? And according to his quote, it was bubbling and spitting, and I thought, well, that didn't work. The next day when I came in and found it and rescued it from the garbage, I realized this didn't just get hard. It got very hard. Glassy hard, unquote. So for the past 13 years, this individual has been building a business around what he calls Ferroc. And like I said, creating concrete creates a lot of CO2. Here's the part that makes me wonder why Ferroc isn't in wider use. Quote, conversely, Ferroc only hardens when exposed to high concentrations of carbon dioxide, which is absorbed and trapped, making it a carbon-negative material. This greenhouse gas diffuses into the wet mixture and reacts with the iron, creating iron carbonate and becoming part of the material's mineral matrix, unquote. Huh. This sounds like the kind of stuff we need to look a little further into.
Definitely.
But because concrete is a $250 billion industry, there's a lot of people who aren't interested in this stuff becoming a thing. But it does sound like it requires further investigation. We don't really have products that are carbon negative.
Right.
We do have a little bit of sad news and nerd interest news, and it has to do with the mouse. Great Disney, the owner of some of my favorite hobbies now. Unfortunately, in Orlando, Florida, at Disney World, there is an attraction where you get to do exotic car racing, either by yourself or with a Disney employed driver, right? Unfortunately, last week on April 13th, one of them crashed a Lamborghini.
Oh.
One of the
It's
employees
not
or somebody...
Unfortunately, the story has never really been followed up as far as I can find. It was never really detailed if the driver was a track employee or a customer. The driver was hospitalized with minor injuries. There was a passenger, a 36-year-old man from Davenport, who didn't survive the crash. You know, it's an attraction at Disney World called the Exotic Driving Experience. I know this is the kind of thing where a lot of people would ask, well, why would you do that? Why isn't it closed? Why aren't there better safety installations? You know, frankly, the fact that I've been alive for 38 years and this is the first time I've heard about a crash of this severity kind of speaks to the overall safety of the experience itself.
Right, not to mention the fact that, I mean, you're driving a fast car at fast speeds. I mean, it's just, there's a reason why NASCAR is considered a sport. You know, I don't personally enjoy it, but... You know, it takes a lot of skill to do shit like that, and accidents are going to happen.
Yeah, driving at high speed in an exotic stock car, Lamborghini, which is known to have a pretty good top-end miles per hour, there's already an inherent risk in that. And if you don't think death is part of the risk, I think there's a certain amount of naivety there.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, you know, what happened to the man? Highly unfortunate. Was it foreseeable? Very potentially. You know, I still don't know who was driving it, but either way, the fact that the man died is sad. I will say it shouldn't have happened, but it is a known risk of this type of activity. We'll move on from there. Jesse and Steve and I are big Destiny players. You know, to our betterment and detriment. I want you guys to take a look at this. Take a look at this picture from a hand cannon from Destiny.
Oh. Nice.
That's not CG.
Right, that's
somebody
made
plastic.
this.
No, it's resin. There is a man named Xander Brandt who runs a website. It's called zprops.net. He actually builds replicas of firearms from different video games and entertainments, and he has the ability to create resin kits. He'll send you either a resin kit for usually around $300, or for $450, he'll assemble it and paint it and then send it to you. And if you think that his work is not impressive, you should really take a look at the detail. There is a gun in Destiny that the three of us as Xbox players can't get, PS4 players have it, called the Hawk Moon. Take a look at his replication of the Hawk Moon.
Wow.
Nice.
You know, there's a few modifications, and he could create Vash's gun from Trigun.
The thing is, though, I have been poking around his site. The gun barrels in both the hand cannons and the Hawk Moon, both cylinders, can turn out. You can actually place a new pod in the hand cannons, and the hammers move.
Nice.
I haven't seen any indication that the triggers move, but just the fact that those others move is more than enough to create an interesting replica for cosplay projects or just for putting on a goddamn shelf, frankly.
We can make a replica of the Golden Gun? Yeah.
Yeah. We'll add a link to his website. His stuff is highly impressive, but be warned, fucking expensive. However, he's worth the expense if you want an authentic replica, I think. I have a list to end Nerd Interest News. It's another Disney list from PopSugar.com. Remember, they came up with the interesting facts of Disney we didn't know before? They have a list of 32 facts that cast members' secrets Disney doesn't want you to know. Ooh. Now, I'll read the synopses from 1 to 32. Is it 1 to 32 or 1 to 21? No, it's 1 to 32. If you find something you hear interesting, let me know and I'll stop and read the description. Sound like a decent deal?
Sure.
Okay. Item number 1, the music never shuts off.
What? Like, it's always playing? They're always doing musicals?
And remember, this is from the viewpoint of not from fans. This is from the viewpoint of the cast, the people working at the Disney parks. Quote, from the moment you step on stage until the moment you step off, you will hear the music that plays in your area on loop. I worked in the backlot area at Hollywood Studios, so one of my stories was Tatooine Traders at the end of the Star Tours attraction. I heard Star Wars music all day for several days at a time. I had dreams about Star Wars. I could quote every line from every song that played in the Muppet Store after working there for several days. But the best part is when you work a closing shift and you're cleaning up your store or cart after the park is completely empty and the music just continues on as if nothing has changed.
That would be kind of eerie. Yeah.
Instead of working there at 3 in the morning cleaning and you're hearing music from the Muppets everywhere, I think you got to stop and go, Fozzie Bear's gonna kill me.
Waka waka.
Oh god.
Oh shit!
It's Five Nights at Freddy's. Run.
Yay! Item number 2. Walt Disney's plane is backstage at Hollywood Studios.
Really?
That's what it says. You want me to read it or keep going? Okay. Item number 3. Animal Kingdom is built in a bowl.
What?
A bowl?
Quote, during traditions, aka orientation, we were told that the park is sunken into the ground to create climate a climate suitable for all the animals in the park. This is also why the temperature inside the park is much warmer than outside. However, I haven't been able to find confirmation elsewhere on the internet, so I'm only going by what we were told. I do know, though, that the animals are why this park generally closes first of the 4 at the Walt Disney World Resort, unquote. I've never been to Orlando, so that is a detail I'd never heard. Item number 4 is kind of a duh. If you are on the clock, you have to follow the Disney look.
Yeah.
Isn't that a duh?
Yeah, there's a lot of businesses that require that.
Yeah, if you're on a dress code, as soon as you clock in, you better be on dress code. This sounds a little creepy. Item number 5. Disney costumes run tiny.
Okay.
Huh?
Quote, during my first trip to the costume room, my supervisor warned me that I should check out a costume 2 sizes bigger than I normally wear, and he was right. Talk about a blow to your ego. He said it was something like the sizing of the costumes followed the sizing of the park when it first opened in the 70s, which is smaller than how current sizing works.
I get it now.
As a part-time cast member, I was also only allowed to check out 3 costumes at a time, and every piece of every costume was required as long as I was on stage, including a horrible hat and bow tie, unquote.
I got some context of that one. That ugly gray vest you see me wearing all the time. That came from Korea. It's a double XL. It barely fits me.
Well, yeah, because you're only Korean enough to say you're Korean.
Damn Mexican.
Well, it was originally bought for my dad. And he's at least
big.
a triple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a sideways question? If you think it's an ugly gray vest, why do you wear it all the time?
I don't know.
Security blanket.
Fair enough. Item number 6 goes along with item 4 as a duh. Photos backstage are a no-no.
That's a duh.
Yeah, Disney's never going to want to reveal their magic to anybody. Item number 7. Pin trading is much more popular at Walt Disney World than Disneyland.
Huh.
Yeah, I found out on my last trip to Disneyland last year, well, technically California Adventure, is that they have like an entire booths and rotundas in every store dedicated to pins, limited edition pins that you could put on lanyards for longtime Disney guests. I didn't even know it was a thing till we went there last year. Item number 8, Disney police love to pull over cast members for speeding.
What?
Quote, so that's not totally true, but statistically, the resort police do pull over more cast members than guests. I was warned of that at my first orientation session when I was hired. Apparently, a lot of cast members tend to be running late for work, so they speed through the property.
Makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense. Karen was nearly killed by some guy at Paradise Pier. He was late for work, and he came tearing through the parking lot when she was coming back with food. Yeah. Still never got that resolved. Item number 9, you can get your in-park purchases delivered.
Really?
That sounds fun.
Yeah. I could read the description, but it sounds pretty self-explanatory. You buy stuff at the parks, and instead of carrying it home, you arrange to have it delivered.
All right, yeah.
Item number 10, and this is another duh statement. Disney says you can't have your last paycheck until your costumes are all turned in.
Yeah, the same thing for uniforms. Yep.
Yeah, I can't say that's surprising. Item number 11, anytime you're on the clock and inside a park, you're on stage. There's starting to be a surprising amount of does in this. This I did not know, but I guess it makes sense now that I've said it out loud. Item number 12, guests will never see 2 of the same character at once.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Wouldn't that kind of ruin the magic if Safari Donald is right next to Standard Donald?
Well, they probably have a checkout policy and everything, so, and a location
they're
that you're
probably
supposed to be standing at.
I was also going to say they're probably region-specific. It's like if you're Donald Tomorrowland, you can't go wandering into Fantasyland. This is interesting because I don't have too many dealings with park staff, not because I don't like them, but just because I try to make my own way through shit. Item number 13 on PopSugar.com's list of items that Disney cast members think that Disney doesn't want you to know. Cast members are supposed to use guest names whenever possible.
Really?
Yeah, quote, as a cast member, I got evaluated by a manager often. Definitely more often than at any other job I've held, mostly because Disney's guidelines are so thorough and rigid. There was a checklist that I was supposed to run through with each and every guest interaction. One of those things was to use the guest name whenever possible. Have you ever been surprised by a cast member who uses your name? It's either because you have a pin on your shirt with your name on it, or when you paid with your room key or credit card, we took a quick glance to get your name. That way, when we hand you your bag of stuffed animals, we can thank you by name and tell you to have a magical day, unquote.
Okay.
That's actually really good customer service.
Yeah.
It is good customer service, but I mean that'd be like my life at conventions when somebody I don't know uses my name and my head spins around.
It's the Disney magic.
Yeah. Item number 14 is something that you know if you've ever been to any of the parks. You pretty much can't see Disney property from the highway.
No, they have a wall.
Yeah. Item number 15, this falls into good customer service. Saying, I don't know, is never acceptable.
Yep. Definitely good customer service policy.
I'm going to use that at ALA next year, man. I don't know should not be acceptable if somebody asks you a question and needs help. Item number 16. There's a very obvious cell tower at Animal Kingdom.
There's a very... Well, I haven't been to Animal Kingdom in a while, so...
Quote, if you're pulling into the Animal Kingdom parking lot and see a really tall, skinny tree inside the park, guess what? It's not actually a tree. It's a cell tower. It's really obvious. It's also not in this photo because no one wants to take a photo of a really ugly and poorly disguised cell tower. Item number 17, I think I'm going to have to read. It says the perks are pretty grand. Quote, here's a Disney secret for you. Ordinary cast members in the parks make very little money. Oh wait, that's no secret, because it's standard for retail and food service jobs. However, Disney rewards cast members with some pretty fantastic perks, including but not limited to discounts on all merchandise, free entry to your parks anytime, many free tickets and entries for friends and family, food discounts, discounted entries to Disney-owned locations, hotel discounts, cruise discounts, access to special events, and so much more. Whenever Disney opens a new attraction at the parks, they always have a soft opening for the cast members only. While I was working at MGM Studios, I went to the cast preview night of the Osborne Family Spectacle of Dancing Lights, where we even got treats and hot chocolate.
Nice.
Unquote.
I'm sorry, this unlimited access to the park you work at is one hell of a perk.
It is a hell of a perk. However, if you're paid as lowly as I assume Disney Disney workers are, that means that your money is going to be drained trying to eat during the day.
Food discounts too.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, you got me there. They do get food discounts, so maybe it all evens out. Item number 18. Children are never lost at Disney.
Gotcha.
Okay. How?
Quote, adults are. If a child ever gets separated from his or her parents, cast members will always treat the situation as a lost adult, never a lost child. How could a child be lost at Disney? It's the happiest place on earth, unquote.
Okay.
You know what? It's when you put it down in text, it sounds ridiculous, but at the same time,
super reassuring to the child.
The child will freak out if they think they're the ones lost. If you tell them, "Hey, mommy got lost," then they'll feel a little bit better both about themselves and the fact that mommy's very likely to find her way back. It's a smart touch. It sounds disingenuous, but it is a smart touch. Number 19. Cast members cannot acknowledge a celebrity as such.
What?
Quote, celebrities are the same as every other park guest if you're on stage. Asking a celebrity for a photo or autograph is grounds for immediate release from your job. I never encountered any celebrities while working at Hollywood Studios, which was Disney MGM Studios while I was there, so it wasn't an issue for me. No, I'm definitely not bummed by that. Nope, unquote. Well, that only stands to figure. If a celebrity's walking around the Disney parks, they didn't come to give autographs. Unless they're dressed up as Cinderella, then hand them your little book. Item number 20. Walt Disney bought the land in Florida under several names to keep it a secret. I can say that's a little surprising, but at the same time, that's smart business. You wouldn't want anybody to know the kind of expansion you're getting ready to do. Item number 21. The Florida property is just massive. Quote, the few times I went to the cast parking lot for the Magic Kingdom, I realized just how much land Disney owns. I went what felt like miles out of my way through housing areas, college-programmed housing, and empty land to be developed later before reaching Magic Kingdom's backstage area. Before having to get on a bus to take me to the tunnel, Magic Kingdom is exhausting. Just when you think you're off Disney property, you see another subtle sign letting you know that, nope, the mouse owns this too, unquote.
Nice.
That does sound like an adventure. Item number 22 fits under duh. Working during the summer at Disney World is rough. No shit.
We've been to San Diego.
Yeah. Item number 23. Just about everything is scripted.
Yeah, again.
Okay.
I can't say this. I mean, just based on the rigid rules we've read already, it wouldn't be surprising if every situation has a remark that you need to
Right.
Item number 24 did throw me a bit. It stinks pretty bad backstage. Quote, but you will pretty much never smell it while in the parks because more pleasant smells are pumped in. Think about how much garbage is generated in those parks every day. Janitorial cast members are constantly shoveling it backstage. So between the large amounts of trash and lack of fancy smells, it gets pretty right back there, unquote. Item number 25 is ambiguous. It says, speaking of stink. Quote, the tunnels under the Magic Kingdom also smell pretty foul. I was only in them one time, and that was enough. I also learned that the tunnels are actually ground level, and the park was built over them. This was because the land was originally all swampland. It is Central Florida, after all. So Walt built the tunnels through some of it and built the park on top of it, unquote.
Well, swampland and gas and so forth. Not to mention, I don't know what kind of ventilation they have in there.
Oh, that's very true. Item number 26 at PopSugars.com. 32 items that Disney cast members don't think Disney wants you to know is Hollywood Studios has provided bikes backstage for cast. Quote, because Hollywood Studios is small and doesn't have underground tunnels, Disney provided a slew of bicycles to be used by cast members backstage. While I was working there, the bike program wasn't in place. I was told they stopped it because people were abusing the privilege of having the bikes, vandalizing, stealing, but it looks like they may be back now, unquote.
For as big as the park is, yeah.
It could be. Well, again, this person worked at Disney MGM Studios, the Hollywood place. It's out in Burbank. I've never actually been there for a visit. Item number 27 also sounds like a duh. Disney has a ton of security.
Well, yeah, of course that's a duh.
Actually, I have to read this because the description is interesting. Quote, that part is obvious because security is everywhere. What is not so obvious is that there are even more security officers than you think. Disney employs a ton of plainclothes officers who are in the parks at all times. The only identifying thing about them is the earpiece they wear, unquote.
Nice. Like, but
Disney has secret agents.
Secret police.
That means if you're staring at that thing and you're thinking about stealing it and you hear behind you, dun, 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 dun. It's time to go. Item number 28 I've heard about, but I've never actually seen because, again, I don't ask a lot of questions of people when I go places. Always employ the Disney point. You guys know what that is?
No.
Quote, didn't your mom ever teach you it's rude to point? Walt Disney feels the same because all cast members have to point with 2 fingers so it's not interpreted as being rude. Other things Disney wants cast members to do? Scoop up trash without stopping to bend down, bend as you walk by and scoop it up. Also, avoid gum because you can't even buy it in the park. Disney didn't want to see it on the ground, so you refuse to even sell it, unquote. Right. I've actually never witnessed people do that, but... item number 29 probably deserves a read. Cast members sometimes get to take part in really cool events. Quote, I worked at Disney World during the year of a million dreams, the first year of a few, and we did a special Good Morning America that I got to take part in. We got to pick from a few select costumes. I picked High School Musical, naturally, and we had to be inside the Magic Kingdom at like 3 a.m. to go over staging. We filmed it at something like 5 a.m., and it ended up being close to a full 8-hour shift, all in the rain. It was a lot of back and forth and standing around, but how many people can say they were on Good Morning America as a Disney cast member? And I got a free lunch, unquote. Free lunch. Item number 30. The Mickey just inside Hollywood Studios has a secret. Quote, there's a Mickey on top of the crossroads of the world right inside the entrance to Hollywood Studios that waves to all who enter and exit. But that Mickey also serves another purpose. He's a lightning rod. One of his ears is made of copper to attract the lightning. The building is also a replica of the crossroads of the world in Hollywood, unquote. That's not exactly a terribly useful factoid, but that is interesting. Item number 31, he goes backwards a bit. Did I mention the cast exclusive sales? Quote, cast members have access to discounted merchandise, damaged merchandise, and items left and lost and found. There's a store behind the Magic Kingdom that sells items pulled from the park shelves at discounted prices for cast members. Then there's a trailer next door that sells damaged merchandise and lost and found items. I bought a Pirates of the Caribbean shirt that retailed for $40 for $4 because it had a hole in the seam. It took maybe 5 minutes to sew it up. If that isn't enough for you, there's also a huge sale twice a year for cast members that's basically a clean out of the merchandise. It's held in huge tents and only open to cast members and their guests. My favorite thing about those were the super cheap trading pins. I got grab bags of 10 pins with a lanyard for $10. Now that is a great deal, unquote. Last item on PopSugars.com's list of 32 items Disney cast members don't think Disney wants you to know is that Disney loves to give guests a kiss goodnight.
Okay.
That doesn't sound creepy at all, does it? Quote, if you stick around the Magic Kingdom in Florida until closing, Disney will give you what it calls a kiss goodnight. Cinderella's castle will light up brilliantly, and there will be an announcement to music thanking you for coming and sharing Walt's vision for his park. Cast members lucky enough to work there get to see it often, and it never gets old, unquote. I wonder if the same holds true for Disneyland. Maybe we have a project for New Year's Day. Last we have our WTF news. That's the news that just makes you sit down and go, what the fuck happened here? First off, there's a problem in Mexico. Rather interesting problem, actually. Thieves are ending up with potential radiation poisoning.
Ooh.
Thieves?
Yes, thieves. There's a crime wave going on in Mexico. Thieves are targeting trucks transporting all kinds of materials. The problem is some of the trucks that thieves are targeting actually are transporting radioactive waste.
Whoops.
It's happened 3 times in the last 18 months where thieves have stolen trucks with radioactive materials on them. Now, authorities believe that on each occasion the thieves were just after whatever they could grab. They don't think that the actual radioactive materials were the target. And every time that the radioactive materials has been stolen, usually within a few days they find it either abandoned or buried somewhere.
Well, I mean, it can't be too hard to find radioactive waste.
It shouldn't be too hard to find the guys that stole it either. Just bring it and look for glows, you know?
Right.
I'm sure at the same time cops aren't too interested in looking for these guys, just saying, look, man, if they didn't die already, let them go. They got lucky. It's just got to be one of those weird things, you know, what'd you steal? I stole a TV. What'd you steal? I got a bike. What'd you steal? I don't know, this is green goo. Don't get it on the turtles. Also in WTF is a callback to a prior story that made us laugh. Remember the Kickstarter for a Swedish film project called Kung Fury?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Vaguely?
I've been wondering when we were going to hear more about this again. No, Kung Fury.
A story came up.
Kung Fury is the movie.
Yeah. Now, Kung Fury was a movie of like an 80s cop driving a Lamborghini Countach of all things, who wants to defeat the world's greatest evil villain, Hitler, as the Kung Fuhrer, and he wants to hack his way back in time via like a Commodore 64 or some crazy shit like that.
With the power glove.
Now, the movie... Right. The movie itself is not out yet, and I am waiting with bated breath for this goddamn movie. The part that does surprise me and why it ended up in WTF... Well, actually, the reason why it came back up is because a music video came out for it.
Uh-oh.
The reason why it ended up in WTF is because of the man singing the music video. Somehow, the makers of Kung Fury got the Hoff, David Hasselhoff, to sing for this movie.
Okay.
When I first heard about this, I'm just, oh, fucking morbid curiosity took over. Then I started watching the video. You know what sucks is it's not bad. I mean, it is 80s David Hasselhoff. I don't know what else to say about that, but it's not terrible as far as music goes. That's the weirdest part. I take it, are you guys as curious as I am?
Yeah.
Sure.
I like how Steve says, yeah, and with that reluctant yes, and V just kind of says, sure, like, don't kill me. I sent it. It starts out with a scene from Kung Fury. Kind of edited to add Hasselhoff.
I've got your permit right here.
You think he was drunk for this? I like how he pops out of the car. Guns blazing.
Denied.
Into a split. Into a split. And the pristine white Lamborghini.
Oh my.
God, that was... Before the Transformers were new. The 80s Kung Fu movies are just wonderful.
Oh god, the music.
No. 80s synthesizers everywhere. Is that jacket he's wearing, is that supposed to be a joke on like the Karate Kid and Cobra Khan?
I kind of dig this.
That's the weirdest part, is it's not even rushed. And I am somehow entertained by this. And I don't know why.
We might be a product of our time.
Well, I mean, right now he's hit the hook at about 1:20 in, and the hook is actually kind of cool. It's very reminiscent of 80s pop.
I like 80s pop.
I think I may have another song that I'm going to put in my media player when people come across it. They'll just ask, what is this? I can't tell you. I mean, that interspaced with the scenes from the trailer for Kung Fury just make this wonderfully delectable.
The fact that he took out a robotic arcade machine with a car is pretty amusing.
I know. Oh, look, a raptor. Oh, there's a few extra scenes in here I haven't seen before. Apparently Kung Fury was a rank-and-file cop.
I really
Was
dig
that
this.
supposed to be,
This is a dinosaur.
That's a dinosaur.
No, the guy with the red leather jacket. Was that supposed to be, Michael Jackson?
I don't know. But, you know, in the 80s, everybody dressed like Jackson if they could. It does appear that this is borrowing some new stuff that I haven't seen from the trailer. It looks like a... Are you there with really kicking ass with Nazis?
This is...
Oh, wow.
This is awful.
This is great. What are you talking about?
I'm laughing, though.
No, we're hacking too much time.
The solo with the fucking... That's too awesome. I think he's supposed to be kind of like a wannabe Weird Al or some shit.
Is this a legit Vivo video?
Yeah, this is a legit video. This is a movie that was fundraised, man. They're making it now. Actually, judging by the this.
The two of them riding the dinosaur at the end.
I want to...
Oh, God.
This is not a true 80s fashion.
I thought it would be a source of ridicule, and all it does is make you want to watch the movie that much goddamn more. I do have another WTF story here, and unfortunately it's kind of one of those human car crash stories. From Divorce Court. On a recent episode, there was a man who was talking about his wife, and he claimed on Divorce Court, according to a clip that is about 2 minutes long, that one of the reasons he's having trouble with his wife is because she slept with the entire Wu-Tang Clan.
The entire Wu-Tang Clan?
Yes!
That seems a bit far-fetched.
He accused his wife of sleeping with the entire Wu-Tang Clan after she attended a Wu concert and didn't return until 7 a.m. the next morning. There's so many other possibilities as what she could be doing, dude.
Yeah, I mean, hell, how do you know she didn't do all the entire audience?
How do you know she didn't fall asleep at Denny's?
Someone has some insecurities.
According to the story on XXLMag.com, quote, she gave Wu some tang, said the pissed off man. The woman defended herself, calling the Wu's members gentlemen and that she is not a bust-down or a groupie. Let me put on the record that Wu-Tang is nothing but gentlemen, said the defendant. They treated me highly respectful and I would never cheat on him. Also, I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but I would never be like a bust-down or a groupie in that type of situation. I kept my lady points together. I met Wu-Tang, I went backstage and got on their tour bus. I went back to the hotel and hung out all night. It was amazing, unquote. Okay, first of all, saying you keep your lady points together, I don't quite know what you mean there, but it does sound like you kept something pinned shut. But unfortunately for the man, the story, even if she did actually follow Wu-Tang to the hotel all night, it does sound plausible. I mean, if you're talking Wu-Tang Clan, you're talking party.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's just one of those odd stories, you know. So, why are you divorcing her? the whole Wu-Tang Clan. At the same time?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
She didn't. Let's see. I think I will save that, actually. I have a list, according to IO9 and Rob Bricken, of the 10 incredibly stupid ways that superheroes and villains have died. Now, the conversation of the week is the TV show of Daredevil. This is the first of the Netflix shows that Marvel has contracted through Netflix release only to create a new corner of their Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I was really kind of shocked that after watching the entirety of the series, I'm finding myself liking Daredevil.
Yeah, and I think we've all had
so
that
thing
experience.
that happened a while back doesn't mean anything now? Or is that still
Which
the same?
thing?
That movie thing.
Well, I mean, the fact that it didn't star Ben Affleck helped. The fact that it didn't star the Radar Sense as the most powerful and charismatic member of the cast helped. But it was kind of interesting how they broke down Daredevil's both origin and activities into such a basic form. The comic books can be a little hard to get into because of the combination of Daredevil's long history, his rogues gallery of interesting individuals, his odd relationships that never work out. I swear to God, the guy has worse luck with women than Peter Parker.
That's saying something.
Oh, and the history is horrible with these women. And the fact is they drew all that down to its basic components and made Daredevil into kind of his most boiled down form. And it is interesting. I never thought I'd say that. I have not read an issue of Daredevil that didn't involve other heroes. And this makes you want to read like the 80s Daredevil where Frank Miller reinvented the character and made him cool.
I didn't have quite that experience, but I like this like right away.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that gave consternation about the costume Matt Murdock first puts on in this series, the black on black, and we kind of discussed that it's a takeoff on the Frank Miller retelling of Daredevil's origin. You know, it's about as comic book appropriate as you're going to get. What did you guys think of his long period in this series without the horns and the red?
I was fine with it because it was the startup of it.
Yeah. It makes sense.
It would have ruined it if you had immediately had this superhero costume and everything, because it was, they were establishing the law firm, they were establishing, the characters, and they were establishing him being a superhero. For him to just be like, boom, here I am in my full armor and everything, it would have felt out of place.
Yeah.
I like how you stated that, Steve, because I read the Newsarama review of it when I was about halfway through the series, and one thing they pointed out that I did not catch upon, that is, I think, kind of very important to the origin of the series, is you notice that until the very end, not one character in this series has a code name.
Yeah.
Right.
They're Matt Murdock, they're Wilson Fisk, they're Leland Owsley, all these characters who have
the man in the hood,
the superhero and supervillain alter egos. They don't just go around going, "Well, I'm just that guy who likes doing backflips, so my dad kept calling me the Daredevil."
Right.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
Well, the thing is, throughout the series, they do kind of hint toward with objects and with the news, going off. One way to do, like the King of Diamonds to represent Wilson Fisk was like, oh. That's nice.
Yeah, that was a nod, but it's not like anyone throughout the entire series called him Kingpin. The only one that got a code name at the end was Daredevil, and it wasn't even Matt Murdock naming himself. It wasn't Foggy Nelson naming him as his friend. It wasn't Karen Page naming him because she never found out. It was literally like a B-list character on the show who had no idea what to tell the papers about the man that just saved him.
Yeah.
Which is
even
kind of a combination of...
Halfway through, he earned half the name by the media.
Right, they kept calling him the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, but that was a misnomer. That was a false campaign. And at the end, this cop calls him Daredevil just because he doesn't know what else to tell the papers, which is a combination of both lame and brilliant.
I love it.
And unfortunately, it's almost like the way that a lot of things happen in the media is that one person has a half-baked idea, and then the media runs so far with it that you don't know what else to call it.
Well, I've noticed that it's usually the media that names the character, or at least I remember that being the case in, like, Spider-Man.
Right. And I really appreciate towards the end of the series when the name Daredevil first crosses the papers and Foggy Nelson says, "Ha, that's terrible. Sounds like a guy who should be jumping over Snake Canyon on his rocket cycle."
Well, they got away with that with Iron Man in the first movie.
I just have to say,
even they poked fun at that too.
Yeah, I think Foggy Nelson is an excellent character. Like, extremely relatable, charismatic. Like,
yeah, but goofy and charismatic. He's not like.
Well, no, he's like charismatic, like guys that I know that I work with. You know, like.
Yeah. Well, the actor Eldon Henson went a completely different way than Jon Favreau, who went almost typical Hollywood with heavyweight characters, and that is goofy. You know, and Henson found his own way through it that made him kind of relatable to me, because I'm a heavy-set individual who tries to get over that by charm and flirtiness, and that's the way Nelson goes through his life in the show.
Mm-hmm.
He overcomes his physical shortcomings by just being as boisterous as possible.
And it works for him.
Quite frequently puts his foot in his mouth.
Yeah.
But not zany.
Which I do.
I mean, he doesn't go.
Right, he doesn't go over the top. He's just an intelligent character who doesn't happen to be an Adonis.
Right.
You know, I can relate to that in spades. I did like Charlie Cox's Daredevil. You know, all the pictures and stills we saw, he looked so dour and plain, and I just had no idea where this was going to go. But in motion, listening to him speak was fucking incredible.
Yeah, I really liked the very first scene, kind of set it up where he was in that confessional.
Yeah.
And I really liked the emotion, and he just really portrayed that character to me. Just boom, right off the bat.
Let's give Cox credit where credit is due. Because of the role as a blind man, he could not make eye contact with any of his co-stars.
Oh, yeah. And he did a really good job of not...
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, even without that eye contact, he did an incredible job of conveying a very long gamut of emotions all throughout the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, it was easy to read, even though he wasn't looking at the camera 90% of the time. But I will say that after watching Daredevil, I think Charlie Cox has a better Batman voice than Christian Bale. Well, I mean, when Murdoch and Daredevil, or when Murdoch and the Man in the Mask, as they kept referring to him, were speaking throughout the show, even though it's the same guy, there were two very different tenors going on there.
But it wasn't intentionally husky or anything like that.
Right, it wasn't gravelly. He lowered it an octave and started speaking very slowly. Like every syllable he's about to utter fucking matters, no matter what situation he's in, and that was a great way to pull that off.
Yeah. Especially when you get information out of people.
Oh god, his intimidation scenes were awesome for a guy that had like no theatrics whatsoever. The implication was always, if you don't tell me what I want to know, I'm going to break your face, and you believed it, even though there's no dash, there's no batarangs, there's no large cape, and you believed that this guy was going to do whatever it took to get you to talk.
Yeah.
Actually, no, there's this one thing that came to mind right now. Is like his mask literally covered the top half of his face, so thus what were they? I'm wondering what the criminals and corrupt cops were thinking when they raised. This guy doesn't have any eye holes, especially as close as he got to them.
You know, I never really keyed into that, because going to so many conventions, how many masks have we seen that don't have eye holes?
I don't know. I didn't pay attention.
Anybody who's cosplaying Rorschach has a mask with no eye holes in it, so it's really not that hard to believe that he just doesn't want anybody to see the whites of his eyes.
Yeah.
You know, that's just my personal experience anyway. I really loved, and to me the real surprise of the show was Deborah Wall as Karen Page.
Uh-huh. I really liked her character.
She was amazingly normal through the show. She wasn't a good-looking model tripping through the slums. She wasn't overblown. She wasn't just the dippy love interest or sidekick. She was intelligent, she was vulnerable, and she looked like a lot of people I would encounter in a lot of mid-range office situations.
Yeah.
Basically, they didn't go to a character extreme with her, is what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is they didn't even dress her up to make her unusually beautiful for the situation, and that happens in a lot of movies and TV shows.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the shortage of female characters, you know, they always try to make them eye-catching and seductive, and or just something to kind of be like, hey, guys, look at this one, and yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do that with this, which I enjoyed.
Do you think that possibly that has to do with trying to highlight the differences between the characters of Karen Page and Vanessa?
It's possible. I didn't really notice that they really, or at least not in the second episode where I saw the most of her, they didn't really sexify her either, so...
No, but Ayla Zur as Vanessa Mariana, the love interest for Wilson Fisk, she was much different from the other, known females on the show in the form of Deborah Wall and Rosario Dawson.
Well, you got to take into account.
Oh, right. I was thinking Rosario Dawson.
What her job is she's a curator. She's supposed to be,
sophisticated.
Yes.
Right. But what I'm saying is Karen Page and Claire Temple as characters in the show were dressed down very much. There wasn't any loud blazers. There wasn't any unusual eye-catching clothes. But then, they were both supposed to be regular people within a slum of New York. Mm-hmm. And then you have the character of Vanessa Mariana, who wasn't dressing in high colors, but definitely like expensive fabrics,
drew attention.
This stuff off a fashion page. I was wondering if any of you think that possibly they were trying to show the differences between the female protagonist and the female antagonist by the form of difference of dress.
It's possible.
It's possible, but I think it's more or less just careers of those said characters.
I think it's just good set design.
I can go along with that. God damn it. Rosario Dawson, this isn't her first rodeo in an unusual project.
No.
But she pulled off the role of night nurse Claire Temple very well.
I agree.
Yeah,
I don't even know the character, but I agree.
The character of night nurse is well known to people who read a lot of Marvel comics going back to the 80s, possibly the 70s. She is literally just a triage nurse who opened up a clinic for superheroes who don't have healing factors, basically.
So
if you had a problem in New York and you need to get patched up, you find the night nurse.
So is it possible we might see more of her character in the other projects?
I thought about that as watching the show. I can't see characters like Jessica Jones or Luke Cage visiting her very often, depending on when they get their powers. Iron Fist, more of a possibility.
Yeah.
Iron Fist would have the same kind of freaky healing via meditation thing that Daredevil has, but technically to a higher degree too. But he's by no means superhuman in his ability to take damage.
Neither is Daredevil's.
Yeah, I admit that freely. I wasn't wild about Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk.
Yeah, me neither. He was too... I do think...
He was awkward.
I think that the things that he did, like, the words were all right. I'm not sure about the actual actor himself.
There were a few times he chewed on the scenery a little too much. That scene where he had the conversation with Madame Gao at his breakfast table,
mm-hmm.
and then he suddenly flipped. He was speaking very low with her, even when she said things he didn't want to hear. She left. He flipped the table, and his subordinate came in to talk to him. And instead of saying anything in low tones, like it's really dangerous right now, he yelled at the top of his lungs, "Get out!" Like he was some villain on Dallas.
Yeah, that was a little jarring.
I'm used to Kingpin from yesteryear that smart and sophisticated is always held his cool.
Mm-hmm.
But given what I know about the backstory that they developed for this character, and as it goes, I kind of feel it's more. He's kind of got two modes: the in control professional that he is portrays mostly, but yeah, when you get under the skin, he's reverting back to that child state.
Yeah, because he had an abusive father.
I understand it. It was awkward and everything, and he said in some of his monologues he had limited social interaction, and I do understand where they're going with the character. I think it was just one of those cases where, and we've discussed how Marvel has a lot of control over the direction that actors take in their roles. Whomever was making the decisions on Wilson Fisk's responses to extreme stimuli needed to tone it down a little. Just a little. It would have saved a lot of scenes where it seemed like D'Onofrio was going out of his mind in certain moments.
I suppose it depends on the direction that they end up heading with it, because, it could be intentional.
Yeah, I felt it was intentional.
I mean, maybe it's supposed to be one of those segments of character growth. Maybe the Kingpin is supposed to be the problem that brings the Defenders together.
I could see that too.
It's the only thing that makes sense at this point in time.
Maybe he grows while he's in jail. He actually, I mean, there's a situation where you got to learn how to deal with other individuals.
I'm curious to see if they do go the route of him having, superhuman strength and whatnot. They haven't really addressed that too much yet.
They purposefully didn't seem to draw on that. It didn't seem like this Kingpin had superhuman strength. He had extra normal strength.
And a lot of rage.
Yeah, but there was nothing in it to indicate that he was hyperhuman. They did give him an armored suit, which was a supplicant for his invulnerability from the comics, obviously. I put some thought into that myself, and maybe they will never go the route of Wilson Fisk being a superhuman. I believe in the Marvel comics he's suspected of being a mutant, which is off limits to them right now. Or, and this is just me spitballing here, but it could be that Wilson Fisk is also one of the people who volunteered for the treatment that Luke Cage went through. Because Luke Cage got his powers due to a jailhouse experiment.
True.
So, like I said, spitballing and rumors because I have no idea where they're going with this. So far, everything I thought about what this series could have been was wrong because I liked it.
You had low expectations.
I didn't have much. I mean, what expectations do I have? Comics I wasn't interested in reading. A Daredevil movie that, quite frankly, made me want to take a turd that was so violent it would make a British Airways plane turn around. And an Elektra that was so horrible, I've watched 18 minutes, and I can actually count it, 18 minutes of the movie before I gave up.
And that's 18 minutes you're never going to get back.
No, it's not. Yeah. And unfortunately, at some point, I know I'm probably going to have to watch the film just to know what I'm talking about.
I honestly, I was the same way. Yeah, I've never really been a huge Daredevil fan. I resisted watching this, up till the last moment just because I was like, no, I'm not really into this particular character. I heard Jesse talking about it, and, he seemed excited, but, it just wasn't my thing. And I watched the first scene, and I was already hooked on this show.
Yeah, well,
I liked the Daredevil movie. It seems like I'm alone in that almost, but...
I still have yet to watch it.
I've seen it. I don't believe I've watched it in its entirety.
I've seen it. I've watched it twice in one sitting. Now I don't mean back to back. I just mean two different occasions. I sat through the whole thing, and I don't find a lot to latch onto there. I thought Colin Farrell did a horrible job in that movie.
I liked him.
The bad guy, or
he was Bullseye.
Yeah, he was Bullseye. He was an Australian Bullseye.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, the character of Daredevil to me has never really been all, and his rogues gallery is odd. What I know of it, none of them really seem,
Well, let's be honest. Let's be honest with the initial rogues gallery for any superhero. They were all odd.
Oh yeah, this is true. This is very true. Spider-Man's rogue gallery starting out was pretty bizarre too.
Part of my research in doing this, I went and read a synopsis on Wikipedia about Daredevil. Did you know that up until the 1980s, his rogues gallery was largely the same until Frank Miller took over and rewrote the origin of the character and ditched the previous rogues gallery almost entirely?
Huh.
Good for him.
That involves the character of Nelson Potter as a villain, the Gladiator, the guy who created Wilson Fisk's suit in the show, and a few other characters. And after Frank Miller redesigned it, it appears a lot of things from Miller's design. Obviously, when you go through time of making a comic, there will be retcons depending on the story.
Right.
A lot of it stays intact, though. And the only Easter eggs I've been able to pull out of the show so far was Nelson Potter as the Gladiator. The fact that in Nelson Potter's workshop in the last episode, when he has the chest that has the costume for Daredevil, he's walking past in front of a pair of robotic steel gray legs that are Stiltman's legs, for fuck's sake.
Stiltman?
Stiltman.
Wow.
It's a Marvel villain whose only ability is to put on robotic pants that extend.
I only
stilts,
know
basically.
this character's existence due to a comic book, comic book encyclopedia I saw in my art class in junior high.
Wow. And the only other Easter egg that I've been able to personally pull out is the fact that during the flashback scene, I think in the 8th episode, where Foggy and Matt have met at law school, they talk about language classes, and Foggy asks him if Matt is taking Spanish because of that hot Greek chick in class.
I have no context here.
That would be Electra.
Electra Nachos.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get that either.
I know, when you're reading comics and looking at the woman in the red bikini, it's kind of hard to pick out what ethnicity they're doing unless their skin is, like, noticeably brown. But, they did take advantage of the amount of time they had with a 13-episode series instead of a 2-hour movie to tell a very long, complicated story. And I think that's one of the benefits it had over the movie was that they took a long time establishing each and every character before they reached climax.
Yeah.
Wait, stop.
Too late.
That sounded horrible.
Too late.
They spent a long time establishing characters until they reached the end of the show and the final battles within. They took their time. I don't know what you put in your this.
Oh, gutter right now.
Yep.
But they did. This was a very rich story, and I don't think they could. In retrospect, maybe that's one of the problems with the Daredevil movies. They tried to put too much into 2 hours.
Well, it's been the problem with a lot of movies.
Yeah, Last Airbender, for instance.
Oh, God.
Okay, The Last Airbender suffered from a ton of other problems than being 2 hours.
Hour and a half, actually.
And I really do think that's one of their problems.
Yes.
Stop. God, there's one axe memory I really want to get rid of. It's hard for me to say I could recommend this for everybody because of the relative amount of violence in the show.
Right.
But because of the lack of sexuality and the lack of like gory, kick-ass style violence, I would give this to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm already going to be recommending this to people.
Oh yeah.
If you're looking for if somebody asked me what's a good comic book show or movie, this is almost instantly at the top of my list. I mean, I've had more fun watching this than I've had watching the Thor films for sure.
You know what?
I've had more fun watching this and watching Captain America: The First Avenger. It beats out at least one of the Iron Man movies for me.
I have an odd comparison that's earned me a lot of hate.
A pecs for you.
I'm an interesting comparison. May earn me a little bit of hate, although I do watch the show Arrow. I think Daredevil did what Arrow was trying to do a hell of a lot better. I still watch Arrow.
I
have
also
to
like
say,
Arrow. I'm not certain if I would quite say it's better, but I agree that it does.
I'm going to get letters because of both of you. I'm going to get letters.
My
Send them all the hate mail.
My issue with Arrow is that of the stuff that I've walked in on, because I don't watch the show regularly, but I do live in the same house as Jesse, so I have seen it. It's a fucking soap opera. That's what it is.
I don't see. I like soap operas, so.
I'm
really
not a big fan of soap operas. I always think they're cheesy and just ridiculous. So that's my standpoint with Arrow, is that they seem to use even down to like the music. I came in one time and I'm listening to the music and I didn't realize what Jesse was watching, and I was like, "Are you watching Dallas or something?" And then I'm like, "Oh no, this is Arrow. Okay, whatever." But
you know what, man? Unfortunately, I'm right there with you. A lot of modern TV shows I have stopped watching, even though they're well written, because the story becomes more about inter-character drama on the show than it is about the actual problem they're trying to solve. And that for me applies to Arrow, it applies to House, it applies to Bones, and several other things that I was a fan of, but just could not get past these people bitching amongst each other.
Yeah, and to me, I don't know what direction Daredevil is eventually going to take, but from the sounds of it and from the episodes that I've watched, it's a crime drama. It is about, what is going on in the world, and it's not about, oh, does she like me, does he like her, so on and so forth. It's focusing on the subject matter and not about these, extraneous, interpersonal connections. So that to me was a plus.
It's hard to know where else to go because we have talked about a lot of the show. What do you guys think of the color palette? It is so muted compared to Marvel movies.
I like it dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like
honestly,
it dark.
If they ever make a Black Widow movie, I could see that palette working well for that. The spy, the
I'll be
secrecy
honest
and
with-
so forth. But you go for Captain America, you go for Iron Man, you go for Thor. Those types of
Need to be bright.
Yeah, they have to be. You're dealing with Asgard. You're dealing with Stars and Stripes American soldier stuff. You're dealing with a multi-billionaire, trillionaire, whatever, however much money Tony Stark has, but
ungodly money.
Yeah.
Let's just put it ungodly.
So that kind of stuff. You need to make it big. You need to make it bright. But for Daredevil, Hell's Kitchen, yeah, that's not. They chose the exact right. Yeah, they chose the exact right level of exposure there. It's gritty, it's dark.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is like they're in a New York slum called Hell's Kitchen. It's supposed to be kind of a stark, pale, almost depressing place, and they really managed to pull that off with the city. Even the sections of it that look kind of nice, still scummy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I was actually pretty impressed with was a lot of the camera work, especially the long panning ones that just go on for like minutes on end, uncut.
Are you talking like the long fight scenes, or some of the stuff of like
Yes.
rooftop running, or what?
Long fight scenes, more specifically, what really caught me was that at the end of the second episode when he was rescuing that kid from the Russians, because that was just a long pan. They set up the entire thing from beginning to end, and this went with one continuous camera shot.
Yeah, that was a nice fight, because it was an exhausted. So many movies and TV shows from a lot of companies involving superhero characters, when they get involved in a second fight after a major injury,
It's like
all of a
second
sudden,
win time.
yeah, halfway through, it's like the injuries didn't matter. In the case of that fight scene in the second episode, he was tired from beginning to end, and especially towards the end, it looked like he had trouble standing on his own 2 feet.
Yeah, but he got back up again.
Oh yeah, got back up, had enough energy. Okay, take these two guys. Okay, rest. Ah, crap, there's more. Bam. Bam.
That fight scene was actually what sold me on the series, because about halfway through that fight, when he's leaning up against the wall and like arching his back trying to get off it, that's that point where if you're by yourself, you almost want to stand in your living room and say, "Get up! Fight him!"
I almost did, actually.
I love how that fight was just straight up get them down as any way possible. Because one of my favorite punches, and it didn't require a fist. It was he threw a computer tower at one guy that came through the door after it got busted off its hinges.
Yeah. That was great.
It's like, ouch!
That's one of those scary scenes when the guy's walking in like, what the hell is clang? I do like that during the majority of the show, I can only think of 2 episodes in the entire 13 hours, or not 2 episodes, 2 scenes in the entire 13 hours where they did that whole Batman-esque, he takes care of 18 guys off-screen type of incidents.
Yeah, I mean, even with that one that Jesse was describing, some of the fight took place off scene, but even when he came back into the picture, you could tell he was still struggling. He was still.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a matter of the camera work actually pretty much set up the scene, because you saw inside those rooms how many dudes were in there.
Well, it's not the camera work necessarily, it's the writing, because that means they didn't take the lazy route. There wasn't a whole lot of scenes of somebody standing there and you hear 8 whiffs and suddenly all their henchmen are on the ground.
Right.
They actually chose the route of showing you how he dismantled individuals, like I said, with the exception of 2 scenes that come to mind.
Thinking about the one scene at the docks with the the Yakuza.
But you did actually see him yank them out via wires or running by and grabbing them.
Or chucking those damn sticks at him.
Yeah, the 2 scenes I'm actually thinking of were his entrance to the heroin den of Madame Gao. There was that sound when he took out like 2 or 3 guys outside the door. And then there was the final episode when he found that crooked cop and took out what looked like about 8 policemen off scene. You hear a bunch of bullets and you hear some kicking, but after it's done, the crooked cop opens his eyes and there's the guy in the mask staring at him and a bunch of bodies on the floor.
Like, hi. Oh, you know what? That was one thing I was going to complain if I just watched only the first 3 episodes. It's like, I understand that he had his father had a background in boxing, so I saw that in his fighting.
Mm-hmm.
But when he started doing these weird outlandish kicks that no martial artist would ever do, I was like, that was kind of confusing me. He's like, where the hell did he learn all this crap? But I continued watching, and I learned where that came from. But
yeah. Can you believe the character of Stick actually is one of the reinventions that Frank Miller brought in the 80s?
Oh.
Really? Nice.
Yeah. Remember when I said this character's gone through multiple retcons? Stick was one of them. That's one of those Frank Miller inventions.
And actually, another thing I want to point out in regards to this fight, I love how he is dead on accurate when he throws shit.
Yeah. That's always been one of his... It's always been one of the weird aspects of his radar sense, his ability to get basically a 360 view of his environment because of how his senses work.
I love how he uses a gun, not in the traditional sense. Depending on what he does, depending on what he does, he can get up to 3 shots with a single gun. The clip, the butt, and if you took the slide off, there's a third piece.
Can we actually mention that I think it was a smart idea for them in this TV show to really play down the radar sense?
Yeah. I mean, I still remember like the movie before the Daredevil movie that we've all been talking about, but I seem to remember one back in the day where they even like kind of depicted his radar sense and whatnot, and that one really, even as a kid, kind of threw me off.
I can't remember if you're talking about the cartoon or like a potential guest star Daredevil had in one of the like old Universal series for the Incredible Hulk or something.
It might have been something like that, but it was definitely back in that era.
Well, I mean, they really didn't delve into what the radar sense was all. They just explained that he has enhanced hearing, a little bit of vision as a result of his combined remaining senses, and just the difference in what everything looks like. Other than, God, like only 2 or 3 views of things from his perspective, they stayed way out of it.
Yeah. Although I will say that, I mean, it seems to be more than just hearing. I mean, he did describe, the guy's smell from like 3 stories down as the night nurse was complaining about, like, what the hell? It's all his senses other than...
That's probably why they played down the radar sense, because a lot of people get stuck on that as a writing device instead of wondering what else can he do.
Right.
It ends up becoming a gimmick, and that's...
Spider sense is tingling.
Actually, the best explanation of how acute his senses are didn't seem to come from the character at all. It came from Stick in that flashback episode when he was training young Murdoch.
Uh-huh.
He's telling him, so what kind of ice cream you got? Vanilla? Is that all you taste? And Stick takes a bite of his own cone and he says, I taste vanilla bean, I taste milk from 3 different dairies from 2 states, I taste, a bunch of chemicals from the periodic tables, and dirt from the hand of the guy that served you the ice cream.
I love how...
And then you see the image of the young Murdoch, like, wiping his lips, like, ew.
I love the language that those two had, because you can tell there was a student sensing moment, but then you just add the general, for lack of a better gutter language that we all know and despise, maybe.
Well, if you can cut into the episode a little bit, and spoilers be damned, frankly, the really brilliant narrative of that particular episode is that they avoided another typical trope of these types of things. Young Matt Murdock had this guy that came out of nowhere, started training him how to fight, gave him more self-confidence, and when the kid, consciously or subconsciously, started to look up at him as a father figure, Stick crushed the gift he gave him and told him his training was over. He wasn't looking to be a kid's father figure, he wanted a soldier. It's like they didn't even bother to try to form an emotional connection between the two. They just shattered it right there and probably left half the people watching going, no shit, you're just leaving him?
You're an ass.
Which I was glad for, because I'm tired of
the
that.
series took some interesting twists, and it didn't follow the tropes. Stick didn't stay to be a father figure or grow to love the kid. Claire, or Rosario Dawson is a night nurse. She formed like half a romantic relationship with Matt Murdock that ended almost immediately just because of what the differences of what they wanted from each other. Karen Page, they didn't... Over the 13 episodes, she had obvious romantic leads for both Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock that were left almost entirely unexplored, and frankly, I liked that.
That's how it usually goes in real life while people are figuring out whether to pursue someone or not.
But it also doesn't leave the writers stuck if they actually wrote by the end, okay, she kisses Matt Murdock, and then you open the second season and there she is sleeping with Foggy Nelson. How did we get here?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, if I'm allowed to actually look a little bit deeper into Stick's character, I think... Yeah, he was looking for a warrior or whatever term he used.
Soldier.
Yeah, soldier. But I think even too, he started falling into that same trap that that young Murdoch was getting into. And he said, "Nope, you can't have this." Because later on, he came back with that gift.
He did, and he left it there, though. It's not like he kept it. There's all kinds of messages that could be taken several different ways depending on what the viewer determines and where the writers depend to go with it. They left a lot of open ends there that they could have fun exploring later. Mm-hmm. Which is it's brilliant writing, assuming that they want another season out of this. I have not heard anything about season 2.
Oh, we're getting another season. This is not...
I don't see how they wouldn't make another season, but at the same time, if they decided to end it here and just start incorporating these characters into the movies, I'd be completely satisfied with that, too.
That would work, too, just as long as they don't forget it.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So I think we've talked enough about it. I got a suggestion for next week. Our talk about Deviate got me thinking, because we talked about how much fun these characters would be with a remake. Well, it turns out that during the soft reboot of the Wildstorm universe, Deviate did have a miniseries called Gods and Monsters. It's about 8 issues long.
Huh. Well, I guess it would be interesting to see DC's take on them.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't DC's take. It was still Wildstorm at this point. The soft reboot meant that they were still within their own universe. They hadn't integrated yet.
Oh, okay.
So this would have been the Stormwatch not post-human division. This would have been the World's End version of Stormwatch, where they failed to save the world and shit. I have a feeling I just said something you had no idea about.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fortunately, I think the series focuses primarily on just the Deviate characters. So let's see if maybe modernizing Deviate made it easier to swallow. Sound good?
Yep.
Sure.
All right. Well, I invite you to roll with us again next week. We will talk Deviate, Gods, and Monsters. Thank you very much for tuning in. Enjoy your weekends at Calgary Comic Expo and at the Star Wars Celebration. Have a great one. I am Jeremy.
Steve.
Jesse.
And V.
Don't jerk and drive. Have a great one. Got to restart your motor there.